The Hospitality Qualifications Rules Advisory Joint Committee meeting is convening at 9:36 a.m. on Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. This meeting is being held in person and through Zoom video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Amanda Hood. Angelica Hanlon. Brianna Hutchins.
Here.
Elizabeth Warman.
Here.
Jen Fox. Jennifer Baldwin. Jessica Hale.
Here.
Judy Weaver. Helena. Kat. Carrie Weed is no. Lindsay?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Carrie Weed.
Oh, okay. Lindsay King. Pamela. Pamela here.
Pamela would be here and present.
Ray.
Here.
Tammy. Here. Teresa.
Here.
Akaite. Noel.
Here.
Carmela. Yesenia. Michelle. Here. Margaret.
Here.
Cindy. Here. Kate. She's a no. Megan.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
And Brittany.
Here.
Exactly the right number. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your first name for the record. Committee members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through Zoom keep their phones muted and cameras off during the entire meeting or until they are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties feedback period, if indicated on the agenda. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this committee has the authority to regulate. Public members wishing to speak, please sign in on the roster sheet available in the room or email Josh Page at josh.page@oha.oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocol when conducting committee business. This meeting is now called to order. So official. First thing on the agenda is to do some introductions. So what me and Derek did is we have combined what was the Qualifications Committee and the Rules Advisory Committee to make a joint committee. Because in the end, what the Qualification Committee does goes into the rules, so you end up having to do double work. So once we combine them, then the work comes out. His documents will be the same as mine. So just for public meetings rules, we combine the committees to make one joint committee. So 15 members is the quorum, which we have. So nobody can leave the meeting. Margaret, do you have a question?
Yeah, you're a little garbled. You weren't in that presentation.
Okay. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So just briefly go around and say everyone's Do we need to do introductions?
Anybody?
Yeah, we might as well. So just quickly, who you are, what you're representing, and maybe where you're from, since this is really for not necessarily rural communities, but residents who reside 50 miles from the school. My name is Sammy Patnode. I am the policy analyst for the Board of Cosmetology and the Home Licensing Office. And happy to help and work this out and get 2380 rolling. So, nutshell.
I'm Sheena Russell. I'm the licensing manager and just here to help out.
Derek Foltz, qualification analyst at the Health Licensing Office. Been here a little over 7 years and just again here to help out. This is Sammy. This push through.
Do that.
Trisha Mao, qualification specialist. Same thing as that. Cindy Long, owner of College of Hair Design Crews here in Salem.
Tammy Kennedy. I teach at the Coffee Creek Correctional Facility in Wilsonville, and I've been in the industry for 36 years. I'm excited to help out.
And I'm Michelle McMullen and I am an educator at the McLaren Youth Correctional Facility in Woodbury.
I'm Pamela Pacheco. I am distance learning coordinator for Gorge Academy and educational director.
Brianna, do you want to start on the call?
Hi, yeah. I'm Brianna Hutchins. I am a salon owner and cosmetologist. I live in Bandon, Oregon, so I'm definitely one of the rural areas.
Margaret?
I've been an educator here in Oregon for 2 academies, and there were several students that drove further than 50 miles to get to those schools. So I'm interested in this program.
Jessica?
I've been in the industry since 1995. I have transitioned out to, I work for the barbers now. I've been the GM there since 2008. So I do all of the hiring of the new students that come straight from school. So I'm interested to see the process and everything, how that's going to go.
Teresa?
I am involved with this based off of the competency and clock hour knowledge that I have to assist.
Whitley?
Howdy, Whitley Sullivan with Representative Bobby Levy. Bobby was one of the chief sponsors of this bill getting passed in the legislature, and we just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure our rural communities are well supported. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Ray?
Hey, I'm Ray Sanchez. I'm the program lead at Klamath Community College for the cosmetology program. I represent both the community college side and a community college in a rural area, and I'm just trying to help however I can.
Who's that? Ray Sanchez. Okay, thank you. Carrie?
Good morning. This is Carrie Weed, owner and director of Gorge Academy of Cosmetology and Massage, private career school out in the Gorge. And we do have many people that travel into us to get their licensure. And I just want to make sure that we're taking care of the students that are going through these programs and taking care of the supervisors to make sure that there's a lot of liabilities to all of this. And I just want to make sure that both sides are covered.
Robbie?
I'm Robbie Buckley. I am the owner of the Oregon Dermal Academy and a synthetic skincare facility, The Sphere. I've been an esthetician for over 30 years and an educator for about 28 of those 30 years. And I'm interested to see how this is all going to play out with rural students and how we can maintain the educational aspects that we've all put forth. I'm more than happy to help in any way that we can.
We already do Brittany.
No, not yet.
So I'm Brittany. I've been in the industry for about 10 years. Actually, this month is my 10-year anniversary. I am a licensed nail tech, esthetician, and I also was an educator at one of my local beauty schools, but have been wanting to be more of an independent educator. And I'm here just to see how things go and how I can be more supportive and help my community of beauty students.
Karen? Steve, Karen Chambers.
Hi, good morning. Karen Chambers. I'm an education program specialist with the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. And as we regulate the cosmetology schools, I'm just here to see what you all put together and how it may work and whether there's any impact to the things that we're doing with schools and school programs and how we may work together if it turns out that way. Thank you.
Liz?
Hi, sorry. Hi, I'm Liz. I own Salon Ethos in Newport, Oregon, and have been in the industry since 1999. Also a Redken artist traveling and teaching, and I am one of those rural salons, and I am just excited to be a part of this and help create an opportunity for everyone in our community to have a path to licensure.
Thank you. We do, Megan? We keep jumping around.
I'm Megan. I've been in the industry for about 10 years now. I'm over in Roseburg, Oregon, so I'm also representing more rural communities. So I'm excited to learn more of the ins and outs of how everything goes over here. I moved over to Oregon probably about 3 years ago, so kind of new to some of the different rules and everything over here.
Sarah Hearn? I didn't know I was gonna call her. There's one more person that's a phone number ending in 724. I don't know who that is. Are we? Okay. We're gonna do some training. We're making training here. Second. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. I wanted to make it sure it was bigger because it's some small words. Okay, so this is the Board of Cosmetology's Qualification and Rules Advisory Committee. Who knows? Yeah. I'm going to just provide an overview of licensing knowledge generally, public meetings or records law, ethics and conflicts of interest, just briefly. Information on how rules advisory committees are created. You don't have this, so I just literally finished it. I'm going to give you a little lesson on government statutory construction analysis. Some of this we have talked about in our qualification committee, but this I'm hoping to give you it before we start looking at the actual draft rules, and maybe it'll make more sense. And then we'll break down House Bill 2380 and what the legislature has given the board authority to do, what they've specified specifically, what they delegated to the board. So we'll break all that down, and then just the general rulemaking process. So Health Licensing Office, we are under the Oregon Health Authority and the Public Health Division, which is primarily in Portland. I think we are the only Salem office. HLO administers and regulates 13 boards, 1 council, 6 programs, and of those, there's 30 different professions. In Health Licensing Office, there's 3 different sections. Administrative Services section, which also houses the Director's Office. We have 102 governor-appointed board and council members that we manage, 21 sets of statutes that govern the rules that we make, manage more than 450 administrative rules, facilitate over 40 public meetings annually, so 40 of these at least a year. And we develop and maintain 17 training programs and education programs, so like curriculums that are drafted by area or training programs like body piercing. So we create those, make sure that they're maintained, up to date, and all of that, and then develop 16 licensing exams and maintain them. So checking questions, sourcing them. There isn't an exact time frame that they're done, but usually it's by every 5 years. The licensing section, these are 2005 numbers I got yesterday. So about 11,000 exams were administered in 2025. We actually have a whole examination section where you can take screened computer-based tests in our office. First come, first serve, and you can actually get licensed the same day if you pass. And application requirements. We also have exams that are online through Workday, not all of them, just a few. We maintain 83,000 active authorizations. So from body piercing to respiratory therapy, if you added all of those up, there's 83,000 of them. 69,000 are professional authorizations, so specific to a body piercer. About 6,000 are facilities, so brick and mortar buildings, events, so tattoo artists go out to events and have like mini shops in a big space, as well as temporary facilities. There's 8,000 independent contractors and freelance authorizations, so they operate as like their own business, maybe in a facility, or freelance authorization holders can work anywhere outside of a licensed facility. And then there's around 30,000 people who hold those authorizations. Regulatory section, this is the 2025 numbers. So about 7,000, almost 8,000 inspections were done in 2025. We received 455 complaints. 209 of them were cosmetology complaints. 104 were for unlicensed, 44 were safety and infection control, 40 service. So somebody cut my hair wrong, it could be somebody burnt during a color, it could be anything kind of in that realm. And then 13 were unassigned. Question, don't know. I just wanted to make sure it added up to the right number. So that's kind of HLO in a nutshell. I think it's kind of nice to be able to see, that there are other groups like you that are involved. So public meetings. So this is actually a public meeting. And it's a public meeting because it's a public body. So a public body is defined as board, a department, a commission, a bureau, anything like that. And within the public body is the governing body. So each of you are considered the governing body. As long as there's a quorum of each of you, then you can make recommendations to the board, which then makes you a public body. So what happens is a whole bunch of requirements start to fall into our requirements. So putting out notice, making sure there's a place to hold it, making sure that there's an online access for people. Recording the meeting, making sure that or taking minutes, whichever. Some places do minutes, some people do recording. We do recordings. If necessary, doing official actions. Again, making sure there's always a quorum. If it's not a quorum, we can't hold the meeting because it is a public. executive session requirements. Sometimes in this process, we will have legal advice. If there's questions that come up that we can't answer, right away, we may have an attorney come in and give you legal advice. So that would be one of the reasons we go into executive session here. So it's under specific reasons that we do that. So if it's for legal advice, it has to be whatever that legal advice is about. It can't realm out into like policy making and rule making. It has to stay in that lane. So that's what HLO does, is help the group stay in that lane. No final actions can be taken in an executive session. No public is allowed, but the news media is welcome. And then when you leave executive session, there's no discussing it. We did have one time a long time ago, the midwife board, somebody went and talked about what happened in executive session and they were sued. And so that was the whole thing. So it has happened once that I know of. If you talk about it, sometimes, keep it to yourself. It's why it's executive session. So public should be public records law. So when you guys email us, that is a public record. So anytime if you text message me, any of those types of things that happen, those become a public record with the state. So that's just a piece of advice that anything that you do, it's retained by the HLO and available to anyone if they want it.
So this is Pam Pacheco. Just so I'm clear, you're saying that we cannot talk about this subject matter outside of this?
If it's an executive session.
We're not in executive session now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Ethics and conflicts of interest. Sometimes this comes up if, so who is covered is public officials. So public officials would be you because you're part of a public body, governing body. And they have to determine if you're an actual or potential conflict of interest. So is there any action, decision, or recommendation by a person acting in a capacity as a public official, you're acting as that now, that would result in private financial benefit or detriment to the public official? So you have to ask yourself these questions. If you think that you have a potential or actual, you want to make a statement to that effect. And I would say get with me and I'd have you loop back to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, and they have a whole group of people that help you kind of write that up. We have had one situation where it was a Rules Advisory Committee qualification combined, and there was a textbook that had been mentioned in the meeting, and it was the writer of the textbook, and the penalty was she had to take some education. So it has happened. So if you think that you have some potential conflict, either you or your family member, you want to make sure that we go over that. Get with me and we'll circle back with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. It's just a kind of a sidebar, so you know. So again, this is how you would ask the questions, and I'm happy to send this to everybody. So to determine whether a conflict exists, first ask, can the result of my official action, decision, or recommendation financially affect myself, a relative, or business with which either are associated? If yes, ask, do any of these exceptions apply? If no, determine whether you have met the actual potential conflict of interest. So just be aware that if decisions that you make could financially give you financial gain or detriment, you want to make that claim statement on the record. So the Rules Advisory Committee, what is the purpose? Public involvement. Members represent the interests of persons and communities likely to be affected by rule changes. RAC provides advice and recommendations on rules to the board. RAC provides recommendations and information the board can use for fiscal impact statements. And there's actually the racial equity statement that we have to do as well. We look for technical expertise from industry representatives, advocacy groups, subject matter experts, government officials, and any affected communities. So we try to do outreach to everybody under the sun that we think could be affected. We generally ask the board who they think would be affected, and then HLO has set of people that we send out to. The Rules Advisory Committee will review and assess fiscal and economic impact. Anything that the rule may affect on racial equity, we'll draft rules, look at forms. We've done some of that at the last meeting, look at processes and procedures, and then any ways we can implement the actual rule changes if there needs to be training done, or, do we need to back it out some? So we will rely on the Rules Advisory Committee for all of those things. So government statutory construction and analysis. Those three branches of government, the legislative branch, so they decided that HB 2380 would become a law. So that's that. And then the executive branch, which is us, we're going to take that law and make rules. And then there's the judicial branch, which if there's the last meeting, there's questions about whether a legal counsel and asked, what do you think? Or we would have asked, but I found the answer without having to do that. So that would be the judicial branch and how we work that out. And the reason for that is checks and balances, that not everybody is doing the same thing. So the legislature is making the laws, we're carrying them out, and the judicial branch is making sure that the intent is correct. What authority was given to the agency by the legislature? So within the bill, and I've specified sections in 2380. So there's exact terms. So that section, 50 miles. 50 miles can't be 40 miles, can't be 60 miles, can't be 51 miles. So the legislature said it's 50 miles. Can't change that. In exact terms, so actively working towards, what does that mean? There's some flexibility there. And we kind of talked about what that looks like. Rules, that's delegated. So the legislature's given us given the board some authority to actually say what's going to work in the profession within, can't be crazy. Sometimes they'll give you including but not limited to, and give you a list of things. It has to be like those types of things. And that's kind of what me and Derek are here for, is to say, hey, there's this or there's that, and point these things out. But so if we say no, it's 50 miles, it's because it's exact. It's an exact term. And so this is kind of what we're looking at, what rules need to be enacted. So kind of go through, we've done some of this already. What do we know? What do we not know within the bill? What answers do we need? We've already went through some of that as well. And then what makes you stop and pause and go, what does that mean? Whenever you get a pause, that's usually like, there's something that you need to ask that question that's not clear. And if it moves over to the judicial branch, they use a system to analyze the law. And it's a 3-step system where they look at the context and text of the statute. So the actual written words. If they can't get the intent that way, they go to legislative history. So they would go and sit a hearing. We're talking about HB 2380. They would look at any testimony that was provided, and then to listen for what the legislature said the intent was. And then if that way they can't find it that way, then the first 2 steps, then they'll try to figure it out, and that happens a lot. You gotta just figure out what you think they need. So now we'll working on 2380. We've done this already, yes. But in your packet, or if you're online, does everybody have their information?
Yep.
So based on what we had talked about the last 2 meetings, we drafted up some rules for you guys to review. Sometimes it's easier to see it on paper than to just talk about things and not actually, if I see it, it becomes more understandable. So if I'm on page 10, I'm going to stop sharing. Sharing. This should look like this is page 10. Should be. So we had talked about if there would be different types of supervision. Jeremy, we have all kinds. There's indirect, everybody does it a little bit different depending on who, what, where. Definitions are usually things that kind of come after or in between things. When we were writing rules, you're like, oh, maybe we need to define that. So we started this, but we might want to come back to this later once we get more meat and potatoes. Page 11 is just a move. We're gonna move back. Rule sides. Page 12 is a copy of the curriculum. It's not in mine. 12 and 13, and this is just so we can reference it when we're looking at page 14 through 16. Is everybody following me? Mm-hmm. Mine. Sorry. So we should be on page 14, but so we can reference 12 and 13. I know if you don't have paper, it's difficult.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is Tammy Kennedy. So we're only talking about barbering?
No, but that's just what we started.
Okay, so you just example is a bar.
Yeah, because I think once we get the framework for one, it would be easy to plunk the numbers or whatever in for the rest. Okay. And I don't know why I think we're
I don't know, but it's okay.
I think because I started with it, just 'cause it's the first one on our list.
Starts with B. So all of these rules in front of you are draft. I didn't make them bold, things like it's harsh on the eye. These are all would be new, all are draft, all up for change. This is just an idea. And really I took it from everywhere. Took little pieces from all different rules that we have, and even other rules outside of HLO. To try to craft what I thought I heard you guys saying the last 2 meetings. So just starting at the top of page 14. And so this should be relatively in line with the curriculum. The provisional certificate for barber training programs must include 786 hours of theory and supervised practical experience. And I got the 786 because that's the total number of barbering hours. Theory and I heard of that. The training must include a minimum. These numbers are weird. 98.50 hours of theory and 687.50 hours of practical supervised experience. Of the 687 hours of supervised practical experience, and then the 465 practical procedures must be completed. That's a handful of sets. So, talk to me about that. And here, how I got in my mind. Let's lay this out for you. In my mind, it should just be theory hours and practical, and practical equal to me equal procedures. I don't really understand the whole. I do get that the 687 hours is the amount of hours you have to do the procedures. It's just very difficult to write, and I think it's difficult to understand. But that's me. It might be easy. I don't really know. So I tried to write it in a way that was easy to understand, but please, anyone.
This is Pam Pacheco. This is all good information for you coming from Oregon Health Licensing and what your requirements are, but when you're in a salon, these are not enough hours for actual training. Because as an apprentice, you're going to be working on clients as well as studying for your exam. And that doesn't give enough time in the day to be able to do that. So if you put it into practical application, somebody working on a guest and trying to learn and do all of that within an 8-hour day, you're gonna find that these hours are really very minimal.
How do they do it in the school?
Well, in school, it's devoted to the classroom and then the practical. In a salon environment, it's mainly practical. And the person would then need to study either on their own.
Right.
Or, outside of it. But that equates in a period of time, the hours that you have, that equates to over a 40-hour work week. If they're having to study at home and do all the studying at home and then work on the floor, it just isn't enough hours.
Do you think it should be more than 786 hours?
I do think in a practical experience, for those that have worked in a salon and done apprenticeship training, they do need more. I personally feel you need more hours. That's my.
This is Tammy Kennedy, and I don't necessarily agree in the barbering section of that. In hair design, yes, because there's a lot more stuff that goes into that with all the chemicals. Isn't that what the board requires for barbering already?
This is, yes.
So I don't see why we would need more than that for barbering, but the one thing I noticed on here was it says 465 practical procedures, 100 of those on mannequins. If this is for barbering, the hair doesn't grow back. So once you cut it, it's cut. So what are you gonna have 100 mannequins? I mean, that doesn't add up for me.
Well, here's part of the problem is the curriculum that we have for cosmetology is extremely unclear. So I'm playing a guessing game because basically what it says is it has all these numbers, right? And then it says, oh, by the way, 25% of the students should be spent working on mannequins, projects, and experiments.
Yes,
What
but
does that mean?
not 100 procedures on a mannequin, because you can only cut the hair so many times. As soon as you hit it with clippers, you're done. Once you cut, because there are mannequins with beards, once you've trimmed that beard, it's trimmed.
So we need somebody to decipher what this
We need to, the mannequin part, I feel like, I see the 465 practical procedures, agree, they need to practice a lot. Mannequin, that 100, you're not gonna get, no one's gonna buy 100 mannequins, they're expensive.
That's a really good point.
And so if you're doing hair, it's different because you're gonna roll perms, you're gonna roll different sets. Those are usable over and over and over again. Haircuts? No. So that was my only.
Okay.
And it goes about shading too. I mean, that's
The mannequin part is the one that I'm taking issue with, because you just are not gonna do that on a mannequin, period. You can do it once.
So
Are we going by raised hands or are we just interjecting?
we should go by raised hands, but because I'm sharing, I can't see who it is.
Margaret has had her hand up for a little
You're
bit.
gonna have to let me know.
I know, but I didn't want to hear.
So I'm just gonna stop sharing and hope that everybody knows what that. Now we can see, so Margaret and then Carrie, and then do you guys wanna do this?
On the topic of mannequin heads, I'm both a barber instructor and cosmetology, and we were able to get quite a few barbering haircuts out of a mannequin head. In the schools, the mannequin head proved quite a practical aid in that we didn't always have customers that they could train on. So I got quite a few haircuts out of the mannequin head. I just wanted to interject that. So it's not totally impractical.
15 to 20, 25 haircuts out of them is pretty much all you can do. if you're taking an inch off at a time, but, you should be able to get about 15 haircuts out of a mannequin.
Carrie's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Yes, this is Carrie Weed. Uh, Barbers don't just do clipper cuts. Barbers do long hair cutting as well too. So requirements on a mannequin head should be adequate enough because they can be doing diagramming on a mannequin. They can be doing, some of the straight razor kind of layout as well too. But barbers don't just do clipper cuts. So you just don't think of like a quick inch off. They're doing long haircuts, one length, graduated layers, all of that kind of stuff. So my assumption is that barbers are doing all types of hair cutting within, Milady or pivot point and not just using clippers.
Yeah, on page, this is Sammy. On page 12 versus barbering services, hair and scalp treatments, facial massage treatments, hair cutting, hairstyling, shaving, the full face and head, mustache and beard. And you guys can go if you want to under barbering services. You could be more specific. It was specific. Never mind. I mean, you could even be more specific than that. So like I said, this is up for change.
Michelle McMullen here. What I do for barbering, I do a freshman requirements, so they have to complete a set of numbered haircuts on the mannequin head before they even go to a client. So we cover as much as we can. We do women's hair cutting, and then we go into clipper cuts, and then we cover shaving, whatever is needed before they service a client. So I think maybe just a little bit of clarification. Okay, make sure you get your freshman requirements done on mannequin before servicing any live clients.
And that's
Maybe just something simple like
this
that.
is Sammy. So let me ask you. Let's start at the top here. I have a feeling we're going to go back and forth. Are the theory hours that I drafted here accurate?
This is Carrie Reed. I have a quick question about this, Sammy. So these are hours that you created based on the curriculum, right? So
Yes.
the 98.5 hours of theory, was that your percentage of the total hours because of the breakdown of the 25% theory? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that. And then one kind of quick piece as well too, when we're talking about mannequins, this is not just hair cutting. Barbers do hair styling as well too. So they're doing everything from thermal styling to curling to braiding. So we don't just narrow it by haircuts. I just want to kind of make that clarification as well too.
I think that's in there. Anatomy and physiology, 22 hours, microbiology, 8. Implements tools, so this would be their bookwork. The theory. This is in my mind. Me and Derek are both new to this. Tina is not, so if she wants to weigh in here.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in.
Let's get rid of all the 0.5s and make it whole numbers. It's easier for my staff when transcripts come in and stuff. I've been trying to get all the schools to go to even hours, not point. So if we could do that, round it up.
But still keep it 786. And I don't know if those are the right numbers.
But doing math, isn't 25% of 786 not 98.5?
Hold on here. Let me go to the sheets. No, what I did is I subtracted 687
Uh-huh.
from the 786, and it got 98.
Why? Like,
Because 687.5 is 75% of the numbers. Is that right?
25% of 786 is 196.
Let's change to 196 then. You guys tell me where you want.
I'm trying to figure out where you came up with a 98.5.
You know, and I remember Derek said I was gonna forget how I did this. I said it out loud, but. Oh, wait. I subtract 786 minus 465. I don't know, we have a calculator.
We can look at those again and adjust them maybe later.
You don't wanna do it now?
Let's do it now.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
So if the total number of theory of the barbering today is 786, how would we wanna break that down? In theory, my mind, theory and procedures, but I understand that 687 is how much time you have to do the 465.
This is Pam Pacheco. How about proposing to make it 800 hours to make it easy on everyone? I love your thought with the decimal points out. It didn't go from 800 hours, and break it down 25% of 800. And the theory and then practical.
Is that right, that 25% of the learning is spent doing theory?
Yes.
Yeah. This is Tammy. I have a couple of things. So can we change the requirements to a higher number than what everyone else in the industry is required to do? That's just my question. Second thing is, I know everybody's in their feelings about me saying 100 procedures is excessive. I do understand how many procedures you can do on a mannequin after 30 years. I think I do understand that. However, I think you saying 100 is a pretty big number for someone who had one mannequin. But you can decide whatever you want. I just felt that was kind of a big number.
Well, I think that we're gonna get there.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there since kind of, people are kind of coming at us for it.
No breaks.
Necessarily.
Okay. So I'm laying it down.
A little bit, yeah, but that's right.
So what the law says is this. I think. Yeah, I think you can. But we can change it and then I can ask. From a school or, yeah, I can hold a provisional certificate and that is from. Yeah, I think it's broad enough. That you could change it, you could change the 800.
Sammy, just looking at these numbers and kind of thinking out loud about how you maybe have come to it, is that if you did 25% on the line that says 20% of the students' time should be spent on lectures, demonstrations, and other learning efforts, right? So 25% of the 786 is 196. Maybe you were thinking of half of that theory hours might be like textbook type of learning, and half of it of more like hands-on learning of the theory. Because half of the 25% is your 98 that you came up with. So maybe that was in your mind that, okay, if you're doing 25% of your theory, or 25% of your education is your theory and foundation. Well, yes. And maybe half of that is like specific reading the textbook, doing worksheets, discussing the chapters, the learning objectives, and that kind of stuff. And half of it is like, oh, let's show you a demo of how to do safety and sanitation procedures, and let's do a pH test and that kind of stuff. So maybe that might help you, like how you came to that number, maybe?
You add up, hold on.
Yeah, you break down, that's how you do it.
Hold on. Hold on, I'm using the computerized calculator.
Question, this is Jared for the record. At schools, is there any expectation for students to be spending time outside of the school setting to study and learn and do those things? Okay.
Yes. And what is your hours that you guys give for that? That small percentage, 20 hours or more or less, or what's?
Sarah just had a moment.
Yay.
On page 12, on page 12, under where it just says hours and it lists 22, 8, that. I added those up except for the services ones. And it's 90, you got it. Wow.
Would you put these 0.5s in?
Yeah. Well, because this is what your curriculum says. Yeah, it equals 0.5. It could be 1,000.
Yeah, that was another rec.
And this is, we're learning this. This is what Serenity did. Yeah. And some can get rid of. She's just gonna be numbers. That's one of them. So we'll get rid of the 0.5. I think there's enough room for you to say 800 hours and round up if you want to, but
It makes it easy.
I can check. And make sure that it's, okay. If not, we can get like.
Okay, Sammy, can
So-
you re-explain that? Because we couldn't hear what you came to. That how did you come up with a 98.5?
Oh, on page 12,
Uh-huh.
in the third column where it says hours,
Yes.
I added up all of the hours except the ones under barbering services.
Oh, okay. So you took the 22 hours of anatomy, 8 hours of microbiology, 9 of product, 14 of safety and sanitation, a career, 20 career and 20 Oregon law. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why I left barbering services out. I guess it's because.
Because there would be theory of that, like hair and scalp and, that kind of stuff. There
That
would be
wouldn't
some
be-
theory hours of those.
Okay. So that's how I got that number.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Figure that out. And I knew I was gonna forget how I got that number. I said it. I think I wrote it down somewhere. Okay, so let's just pretend it's 800 hours. How many of those hours would be theory, and how should we break that down?
25% of 800, this is Pam Pacheco, is 200 hours. And then you have 600 hours in practical. So that's a lot of hours, more than the 100 that we have here. And that is your requirement, though, 25% is spent on theory. And theory is not just to sit and find the book, but then, visually visually being aware of all the safety and sanitation procedures and,
Isn't that how you're doing the procedure?
when you're learning, as an educator, when you're learning about the basics, your orientation stuff, or the fundamental part of it. It's not just sitting by the book, but getting up and seeing where everything is and knowing where the electrical panels are, and, it's not just sitting behind the desk with the book. But the thing that I keep going back to is this is going to be a program designed for salons. And we're taking the school information and we're trying to place it into a salon environment. Now, who is going to be interested in doing this kind of program? A salon owner who has staff that wants somebody to come in and become an apprentice. They're busy. So the apprentice is going to have to be doing a lot of this stuff on their own, right? They're going to have to be self-motivated to learn this information. They go out and buy a pivot point book or a Milady book, and then they're kind of reading it on their own. There's not any programs or other explanations in what you guys have here. How are they going to learn that info? Pretty much on their own. The salon owner can help them with practical stuff. Okay, once you learn about hair and you know what the layers of the hair are, the cuticle, all that stuff, then I can show you how to do a haircut. I can show you a one-length haircut as a salon owner. So,
how would you change the rules, Sammy?
I would, we want to just try to keep it as simple as possible, and, but keep in mind that what I'm hearing and seeing is that you're talking about what the requirements are, and I fully appreciate that. We all want to keep the standards high. But then you're going to be in a salon environment where you've got a salon owner who is largely going to be in charge of teaching this apprentice how to do it. And we want to be able to make that feasible for them, right?
Right. It's an adaptation. We're adapting the criteria of schools to a salon environment, which is very different.
That's
Cindy has her hand up, and then Margaret.
I just spoke. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
I said this is
Liz.
we're adapting. I agree with, was that Karen Chambers that just spoke? I agree that whoever was speaking, that this has to be adapted to a salon environment as opposed to a school. One's a small business. Well, they both are essentially, but I've apprenticed people in my own salon, and it's I know firsthand it has to be adapted. So I agree with Karen Chambers, what she just said.
Okay, Cindy and then Liz.
This is Cindy Long. I think maybe we're looking at it a little bit incorrectly, in the sense of, I think the person, in my mind, the person who's going to step up and say, I want to be the instructor, they're taking on a different job. In my mind, they need to adjust and take time to teach the theory of it. Yes, maybe they have that, if we want to call them apprentice, student, let's say student, because it's not an apprentice. The student assigned to read, just like we might, chapters at home and whatever, and then have a bit of time with them, whatever, in each day, however, to make that happen so that they learn the right pieces and all the theory of those pieces, and then get their hands in those pieces, because I feel like otherwise, what are we doing? We're taking away the education of our industry. And I don't think that that's really where we're trying to head. I don't believe. Again, I just feel that it's going to take some revamping from, let's call them the teacher.
See, if you
So
know,
we had to.
Liz and then Sammy and then, Liz, Megan, then Sammy.
Hi. So I have to agree as well with the amount of hours, and we need to adapt as this is a little is different. I've been running training programs with students after beauty school in my own company for 20 plus years. And just that time, it would take me a minimum of 6 months to get them really ready to be out on the floor. So I can only imagine from start to finish the amount of time that's going to take. With that said, I also agree that the educators need to adapt as well. You are doing something different. Many are going to be paid for that. So you do need to create time in your schedule that you're doing teaching, but as in classroom time, as well as an apprentice is going to have to take on the agreement that they need to put in some time as well, because this is different than a school setting. So that's all.
Megan?
So I do agree with, being able to take time out of your day, or like whether it's so many hours a week to work with someone on, their training. From what I was understanding, you guys were talking about like practical with the owner. Is that like, would it have to be the owner? Because I mean, I work in a booth rental salon, so I'm not the owner of the salon, but I do think it would be good to be able to train people under me specifically. So I guess I just wanted some clarification on that.
Yeah, this is Sammy. No, it can be any, well, we'll be figuring that out, but the statute says it has to be somebody licensed in the profession, the same field of practice, and they have to have been licensed for 5 years.
Okay,
Then,
gotcha. Thank you. That's kind of what I was wondering, because I heard, like, oh, practical with the owner. But for me, I feel like if I was to be the one training someone, I would want that practical part of it also with me. So.
and I think a couple things. So these people actually are licensees. They hold license, the health licensing office. So they're not apprentices and they're not students, they're actually licensed. And so there's that. And then the people who are supervising them are practitioners, right? They can be, salon owners, they can be contractors.
Would you have to have an educator's license as well on top of that, or just to hold that license to be able to train people?
The bill says hold the same license in the field of practice and at least active for at least 5 years with no disciplinary action, and then the board could set additional qualifications. I'm not sure if we got that far in the rules.
I think we touched on it, but.
So yeah, so those are the two the big ones, and then if there's other ones that the RAC wanted to recommend to the board, they could do that.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So I guess what I think our job here is the rule needs to tell them what is expected of the supervisor and what is expected of the provisional license holder. Some of this information you can't see in the rule, it gets referenced. So like here is the electrology training. You actually track the theory part. What? So this would be obviously changed to barbering, and then you would actually track the date and the hours that they did these things. And so a lot of it comes out on paper that you can't see here, but this is the tools that we'll give you in your packet when you start a training program. So I guess for me, I'm trying to figure out what we're going to get on paper as a requirement. So somebody opens it up and goes, oh, okay, if I want to do a training program, this is what's going to be expected of me. And this is what the supervisor is going to be expected to do. And the supervisor can go, no, I'm not going to do it, and move on. Or they can say, yes, I'm going to do it.
This guy's ringing up.
Jessica?
Sorry.
No, Sammy.
Yeah, sorry. I guess my biggest question here is you're not asking salon owners to become schools. So I think there has to be something written different. They're looking for salon owners to help basically apprentice people coming that don't live close enough to a school setting to work in the industry. So there can't, you really would really hard to ask salon owners to set up a school situation where they have to teach theory hours. That would be something more that you would be needing to look. I think that you'd be needing to look that the individual that's doing these would come on. That is independent study. They have courses like that through online courses for colleges everywhere. You do independent study on your theory, and your practical hours are hands-on. It doesn't seem, it just seems like we're trying to set up a salon to be a school to do theory, and I don't think that's would work in any setting.
Sorry, this is Carrie Weed, and I get it, I understand, but these students coming in still deserve a structured program. They're going to, and this is one thing that we haven't determined, is the structure of this program. Are the students paying for this as like tuition, or is the supervisor paying them as an hourly wage? Because if somebody signs up for this training program and say it's 787 hours or something like that, and they come in with an expectation that in this amount of time, I am going to be trained on all of these things and have, all these practicals and theory and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to go to the state board and I'm going to take my exam and I'm going to get licensed. This student that comes in, what happens if they don't have a structure? What happens if this supervisor is like, yes, come on in and we're going to train and here's what I've got in mind. And then 300 hours into it, they're not getting anything that they're promised. They've been sweeping hair and doing these kind of things. And yeah, they're watching haircuts and they're watching, styles and that kind of stuff. And they're working on their mannequin heads and they've done some book work. But what happens if this student doesn't feel like they're getting what they were promised? Is there any sort of a structure to there's got to be structure to the program. There's got to be layout of what they're going to receive. Because if this student feels like they're not getting it and now all of a sudden they leave or they withdraw and they're halfway done with their program, do they get their money back? Do they get their hourly pay? I don't know that we fully understand this whole thing, but students deserve the right to know what they're going to get in a program like this.
This is Sammy. Couple things. So we know for facts that this model works. Electrology has it where they work in a facility setting and they teach, supervise. Body piercing does it, tattooing do it, sleep technicians do it. So we know actually, without a doubt, that this model works. And if you look at what is for electrology, the school hours and the on-the-job training program hours, they are identical. They're not different, they're identical. We know it works. So there's that. In those situations, once you get a license, you have a license. If you're not getting what you think you should be getting, you make a complaint to HLO about your supervisor, and then we would investigate. But the law was not set up, to my understanding, to determine who's paying for what and all of that. That's not a part of what our job is. That would be something that the supervisor and the provisional certificate holder would determine on their own. That's not for them to determine. But also, in the bill, it says that we need to see that they're actively working towards getting a license. So there will be some checks and balances during renewal. I mean, yeah, so I mean, it does work. And what I put in front of you, I was hoping would be some structure of what it looks like. This can obviously change if somebody has a better way of doing it. I'm happy to change this up. Megan and then Pamela.
Yeah, so I guess my question is kind of similar because I do feel like it can work. Obviously, I think in a salon you can have your own training as long as people are taking the time out. But again, I guess I just don't know what would the criteria be for those students other than, what's on the test? There's no like written, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, but like the plan for like the classes for theory and all of that. Is that something that
Curriculum.
we would get, I guess, more information on, like what would be required for it?
This is Pam Pacheco. I do want it to be said on the record that you guys are doing an amazing job. I mean, the information that you put out this time from last time is really, thank you for what you're doing. I know that we're all in the same mindset that we want to see this move forward. But the hard part is that you don't know what you don't know. And enforcement of any program that we set up is going to be so difficult because we all know that there are those salons and out there that are chop shops and they're in it for the money and they're doing slave labor and not paying people and all that kind of stuff. And we, as not only institutions that are teaching people, but the industry as a whole, we want to keep the integrity of the industry up. And if there's not a structured program to do that, it's not going to happen. Because you guys have already stated, you don't have the resources to police salons to make sure that they're getting the hours they need in microbiology. It's not going to happen. So you're gonna, if it's not structured, if it's not put forth in that way, it's not gonna be successful. It's not gonna work. And so, who's gonna set up the structure for these systems?
I guess this is Sandy. I don't know outside of this rule what you're talking about. What can we put on paper that we would file as an administrative rule to say, you must do all of these things?
Well, I looked at your, so
there's a reference to a larger document, which would look like this, that would have all the training and training stuff.
Right.
So I just.
Okay, so if we took that, just one moment, please. If we took that graph that you have there and we looked at that, and said, okay, anybody that wants to become a provisional trainer, let's call it that for this moment, and have an apprentice, an assistant come in, whatever you want to call it.
We're
They have to
leaving.
fill out that
Go
paper.
potty.
I don't want to yet. Okay, so if they have this paperwork that they have to do, and let's just say for conversation's sake, they got to turn it in once a month, right? And so they got to turn it into you once a month and you've got to navigate it. You guys don't have the resources for that.
No, but we could audit it, do an audit of all supervision
Okay.
records. I mean, I don't think that is what we're trying to do here today. We're trying to get it in place.
Right.
And then the great thing about an administrative rule is they can be changed. And if there's harm to the public, it can be changed quickly with the temporary rule.
Right.
So the first go arounds often is wrong. Then we gotta go back, but we always have to look 5 years later at least. But yes, not any.
I'm just coming from the place that I've been a salon owner and I've been in the educational institution, and there's a disconnect there. We as educators want to keep the integrity of the education up, and we as salon owners can benefit from workforce because our industry is at great risk right now. The hairdressing industry is declining and there's major issues. Why I'm here in the first place. And so we want to be able to provide a workforce for the industry and keep it going. So salon owners or journeymen within the salon would be the people that are training the apprentice assistant that wants to come on board, okay? So those are people who are naturally very busy because they have their own practice to work on. And yet they're gonna take on an assistant and help train them. The assistant, I would suppose that they're gonna have to do a lot of self-teaching on this, but where are they getting the information? Where are they getting the stuff that they need? We're setting up these rules, this owner has to do.
Textbooks, is that what?
Yeah,
So I would say could reference the candidate information bulletin, which gives you all the resources that we do to do the exam. That would be one way of sourcing. I'm not sure how they do it. You're saying it was that way?
I think
So you
people are
have a-
I think people are wanting to know how it's going to be implemented in a salon environment. And will somebody receive, let's say, a salon owner, let's say after you do the rules and statutes and establish them, then the salon owner who's going to take on this assistant wants to know, well, how am I going to implement this? Who do I send them to? Who's going to check off that they did their theory hours? Who's going to check off that they did so many doll heads, so many shaves, etc.? I think that's where we're sort of running into a problem, that this is statutes and laws, but then after that, how's it going to be implemented and who will be in charge of that? And
So this is Sammy. If a supervisor decides they want to supervise a provisional license holder, they're taking on that responsibility. And in the rules, I think, if I got that far, I can't remember. It says, as a supervisor, you're in charge of all the record keeping and the safety and sand and making sure all the things are happening. And that's something, it's a choice, right? You can choose to do this. If you're too busy and can't do it, then don't supervise a provisional license holder.
I think my main concern with that, though, is are people going to just pick and choose what they teach these students and whatnot? And then once they complete everything, they go to take their test for their license and they completely fail because the instructor or whoever did not teach them everything that they need to know for that.
But I think that happens in the school setting as well. So, I mean, yeah, that happens in both settings. So what?
Carrie has her hand up.
Hello, this is Carrie.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So to that point, though, is that when you go to a school, we have a curriculum written out with learning objectives, schedule, program map, and we have to turn that into the state and get authorized to teach it. So this is where the disconnect is that when we're putting ourselves as an educational facility, we have to present these things and we have to show we're presenting these things and we get checked that we're presenting these things. We have to turn in all kinds of stuff to prove it. The second side of it, which I think is getting lost, is this: when you say harm to the public, this is a red flag to me, because the liability of us, the harm to the public is the student that signs up and with a supervisor. And if they're not getting what they thought they're going to get and they're paying money to do it, this is harm to the public. So you're saying a supervisor, yes, you're allowed to do this and you have to do this and you're supposed to do this. But what about things like anti-bullying? What about the ethical part of it? So they're signing up with this supervisor. Are they following labor laws? Where if I don't get paid for my time, do I go and say to the, labor, I didn't get paid for my hours? Are they paying to be there? And then they say, I don't get what I expected to get. And they sue the supervisor and say, hey, I gave you $10,000, just as a number. I gave you $10,000 for this supervisor training. And I'm halfway through and I didn't get it. I want my money back. Well, the supervisor says you can't have your money back. And they say, why not? Well, because I say you can't. Where are the policies and procedures and regulations that they're giving this public student that they're going to say what they're going to do? So I think that's the harm to the public. And the reason I bring this up is because on the Board of Cosmetology meeting we had, there was somebody that proposed a change in rules about aesthetics and laying out the specifics of aesthetics and what is in basic aesthetics versus what's in advanced aesthetics. And it's unclear. And they said the harm to the public is that students are enrolled or they're paying money and not getting what they said they're going to get. So I think that that needs to be brought to the attention. Is harm to the public are these students and these people that are signing up for their training programs and their liability, as well as the supervisor's liability. And if it comes back that the supervisor then can turn around and sue Oregon Health Licensing Board of Cosmetology to say, yeah, well, I wasn't required to turn in any handbooks or I wasn't required to turn any policies or anything. So, hey, you guys didn't require that of me and I'm getting sued for $10,000. I just
Okay,
think
Carrie, this is
long-term.
Sammy. So in a bigger picture, we can't assume that somebody's gonna get sued, and I don't know how you would write a rule like that. We don't have the authority for those types of things. What we have the authority for is to create something that will allow a provisional certificate holder to learn in the field of practice under a supervisor who has the same field of practice and license with a license active for 5 years to do disciplinary action. That's what we have the authority for. Two, the way it is in other programs, the schools have a curriculum and HEC approves that. Actually, HLO, the board approves that now.
Yes.
In a training program, we are going to hand the supervisor up the packet, the layout, the structure. It's a training program, so it's paper. It's not just words. The training program is the thing. And we're going to give it to the supervisor, and that's how they're going to track what the provisional license holder is going to do. So HLO is governing what that looks like, not the school or HEC. But we're going to give you this. This is how you're going to, okay, so we did the legalities on April 4th, and we did 1 hour, and then blah, 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 all through here. And then there's all the procedures, anatomy, physiology, and these broken down hour for hour. So this is the document that you're going to get and you use to track the provisional license holder. We will be making sure that they're actively working towards the license, and I'm assuming we're going to base that on renewal. I mean, we can't say that you must pay a supervisor or you must pay the provisional license holder or you must make a certain, we can't do that. That's not our job, and it's not what the statute told us to do. We can say, you get a licensed provisional certificate holder, you meet some requirements, here's what you're gonna do to earn your permanent license, and the training will be under a supervisor. So we have to work within the authority that we've been given.
Okay, so that's
And
some good clarification that Oregon Health Licensing is going to provide a supervisor the curriculum and structure for all aspects of this in terms of theory, adaptive procedures, and all that kind of stuff. And then Oregon Health Licensing is going to oversee that these things are being done and checked off. Okay.
Yeah, we could audit Tina and then Derek.
Currently, right now, within the professions we have that are already doing this training out there. For example, body piercing has 750 hours that they have to do. We haven't gotten any complaints on any practitioner that's out there training. This program's been in place since 2018, 2012. Hearing aid specialists, they've been doing this training since I've been here. That's 29 years. So we have these trainings already in place. Electrology, right now, 600 hours. There was no schools. We had to put a program together. We did that. They've been doing this. There has been no complaints about the training that individuals are receiving. They're very successful coming in here. So all you guys, what we got to do is just put the training together, and then it will all go into place, and it will work because they have to sign declarations of responsibility when they become a trainer. Whichever role they're going to take, hair, barbering, anything within cosmetology, they're signing that. The trainee that's signing the paperwork too, they can see what the obligations are for the individual that's doing the training and what their obligations are. So when you have the training program being sent to them, they're going to know step by step what they have to do. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say the same thing. approved supervisor does have to sign that declaration that outlines what's expected of them, so they will know that prior to starting the training.
And this is Tina, one more thing. We don't know with body piercing or electrology, we do not know what their agreements are, how much they're paying, if they're accepting money, if once they're on the floor, when they're doing body piercings, if they're getting paid. Health licensing office does not know any of that. That is between those individuals, what they're doing.
And like with, this is Sammy, with the electrology, it's laid out very nicely. I mean, it's got, yeah, you've got every, you even have the list of, the sources that suggested resources. So like Lady and whatever they are. So this is a full packet that will be given to, I think it's given to the student and to the supervisor. So.
Yeah, Sydney.
Yes. This is Tammy. A couple of things that kind of popped into my head as everyone was talking. One, coming from a lens of a school, this is scary stuff, and I get that. And I feel like, especially at our last meeting, we were really moving forward. But today, I feel like we're kind of back to the first meeting we had. Freaking out a little bit is happening again. Change is hard. This is hard. If it's obviously working in other areas, this will work if we work it. So I feel like, did we all think we would be shopping online almost everywhere now? No. I would not have ever thought that was a thing, but it is now, and I almost never go to the store. But I'm just saying, change is hard, and we can do this. I believe in us.
And this is Sammy, what I tried to do was take what I heard you say and put it in this model. This model might not work for you guys, but this is the model that I know. But if you have another model, let's try, or you wanna fiddle with things, I got all the other examples that we can pull out. So all of this is up for change. And then, yes, and I do want to just, yes, this is a big change. It is, yes, and I want to just acknowledge that and be patient, maybe.
This is Derek, and to that point, what you guys decide or what our final product is, it doesn't have to be the final product forever. If we go 3, 4, 5 years and we get a lot of comments or saying, oh, this isn't working out, this is working out, we can always adjust it.
Yeah.
So.
I personally think the structure is good, and you have said that you have a lot of it, success in it in other structures that you've set up. I think the question that keeps coming up, that it sounds to me that everybody's wanting to know where the accountability is, especially in the sense of the theory, how many classes they're supposed to take, and then how is that accountability going to be facilitated? And I understand now more than I did when we started this meeting what you're saying, that that's kind of on the supervisor. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
And on. And is it okay to take a 5-minute, a 5-minute break? 5 minute break. People in the room, there's a bathroom here where teenage boys went, and I think the door's open. Yeah. Bathrooms.
We'll be back at 11:10.
We'll be back at 11. 12. 12. Okay. We're back. My break. So at the last meeting, what we talked about was evening. One item at the top of the list was, can we require supervisors have a criminal background? And the answer is yes. And here's why. HLO is where, in the HLO statutes is where we have authority to do background checks. But we only have the authority to do it on, pull it up. Okay, really what it is. People. I have it in front of me.
That's something that could require them.
No, because they're not under hex statutes. You're slow, sorry guys. It was right. For the purpose of requesting a nationwide criminal records check under ORS 181A 195, the office may require fingerprints of a person who is applying for an authorization, applying for renewal of an authorization, or under investigation by the office. So a supervisor wouldn't be any of those people. They already hold a license, they're not renewing, and maybe if somebody made a complaint about them being a supervisor, you do that. But not, those are the only items we have statutory authority. And they're not actually getting an authorization of the supervisor, they're just getting approved. So that was one question you had. Residential and physical address are the same. The one that came up. Yeah, I mean, those were kind of the big ones. So I guess if I'm going back to the draft of the rules, and understanding that under on page 14, if you look at the bottom of the page 16, the office has approved the provisional certificate for the training programs. That is an actual document. And that would be the document that has all those forms in it. So understanding that that is an actual thing, maybe I need to clarify that. Like the curriculum, but it's a training program packet. And the reason we reference it with the date is because we can't change it. Because we need to give somebody notice of what they're supposed to be learning. Page 16 at the bottom. Number 12.
15 at the bottom.
15 at the bottom. 16. Yeah. Number 12. The office has approved the provisional certificate barbering training program. implemented on. So that's a thing. We can't change it unless the rule changes. If somebody notices of this, so that's an actual document. Within that document, we would tell them theory hours, number of procedures they need to do, all the things that I have on page 14 and 15. But we can change, it can be different, doesn't have to be laid out like this, if you have a different model you want to use. This is just what I have. And so 786 is the barbering number that schools teach. If we want to change it, if we can change it, then I can make sure and find out if that's okay. Because I'm not sure what, we'll have to get some clarification on. In the bill, section 2, number 4, the number of hours of supervised experience completed by the holder of a provisional certificate shall be credited equal number for the total number of educational hours required. I'm not exactly sure what that means. That makes me feel like it has to be the same number of hours as an education program.
This is Tammy. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier, is if it's 786 for a school, then it should be, because what that's referring to is transferable hours. So if you're doing, 500 hours under a provisional, and then you move and you want to go to a school, you should be able to transcript that to make it needs to be equal. We can't just make it more because we want it to be more. It's my opinion, but I can do it.
So let's say we just leave it at 786. And that's the total number of hours. How many of those hours would you want them to be doing theory? In theory, could be working on a project, reading, whatever goes with the theory. Watching videos.
Well, in here, I would say at least 40.
40 hours or 40%?
Oh, hours.
Percentage. And the number I have, which is how we all figured out how I got the number, 98.50, which definitely changed to 100 or whatever. I think we can work within the 786. But I think you could maybe make a little more theory hours if you wanted to.
Sammy,
break it down differently.
Sorry, this is Carrie. I do like that idea. I like your 98.5, but then we can put some theory hours and maybe bump it up a little bit for some theory hours of some of those barbering services, because you will have things like scalp and that kind of stuff, but you don't need 25% of those barbering services as a theory hours. There's maybe 3 or 4 chapters that you want to go through of foundation of those hair and scalp treatments, facial treatments, hair cutting, styling. So I think the base with 98.5 and then add some additional for theory of that section would be adequate.
Okay. Do you have a number in mind?
This is Pam. You have safety and sanitation here. You say 10% of the time should be spent on safety and sanitation. You don't have any hours for that. And you only have 8 hours for microbiology. If you wanted to bump up some hours, safety and sanitation, definitely
where you are.
Need some focused energy.
Tell me where you are on the page.
I'm on page number 12, the breakdown here.
And on
This thing?
Okay.
And on that, this is Tina. You guys don't have our requirement for safety sanitation anymore because it's within each practical measure.
So if we could focus on the 98.5, and I'm hearing bump up, create another spot for barbering services with additional hours. And then I heard additional hours for microbiology, I think. And then I guess I could change the terminology: safety, safe use of devices and federal regulations and standards, 14 hours, safety and sanitation.
Michelle here, I was thinking of different numbers when I said 40, so I was thinking of Oregon laws and rules combined with career development, so I'm sorry, I put the wrong idea of the number out there for theory.
So how
My mind was somewhere else. Sorry.
What would you think would be for barbering services? Be an adequate
Sammy, here's a
number of what they would.
Sammy, here's a good recommendation. What if we just did like 10% of that barbering services? So those columns, the hair and scalp, come up to 687 hours, right? And if you did 10% of that as theory and foundation, you'd come up with roughly 68 hours. So you could add that 10% of those barbering service theory with your 98.5, and that might be a way to come up with and then maybe round it out. You know what I mean? So 10%. That'd just be a general idea, 10% of those.
And would there be enough, what amount of microbiology, more than 8 hours?
Yeah, I would say definitely double that.
In the room? Anyone?
I would agree. I would agree that you need more microbiology, so if you did 16 hours. Where are you thinking? That's.
Well, we're not that up and it's back.
And where you, Michelle here, I'm gonna ask the hard question. Why would anyone need to do more than what all of us licensed have done? I don't understand that. I do understand it. I mean, we have so many concerns here, but why would we make other students do more than what licensed in the industry have already done? It doesn't make sense.
I think we're just talking about theory and foundation, not overall more hours. But I kind of feel like in a situation like this, you need to require that they have that theory and foundation so it's not missed or overseen in such a hands-on setting.
This is Tammy. Do we have the outline for what the schools are doing now? Can't we just mirror that? I mean, it feels like it makes sense and not make it harder, just make it equal.
Current part. Are you going?
Yeah, I have you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Oh, this is Pam. For haircutting, you have 160 operations and you have 320 hours. I don't know that it takes a barber 2 hours to do one haircut. Would there be some room for moving that around a little bit? That's the theory.
Yeah, right.
Where are you at? Right here on the operations and hours page of 3 of 14. You have for haircutting 160 operations and 320 hours toward that.
Yeah, that's the thing. What does hours mean?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, practically speaking, it doesn't take 2 hours to do one haircut, so that's practical.
And they're saying theory too. Theory is in that.
Okay, yes, theory is based.
Calculating that as theory.
Only theory, not the practical part.
Correct.
So all of this is theory.
Yeah.
Right.
The way because this is unclear and this is what the board has approved, an unclear document, because that's what we said we would do when they gave the board the authority. That's what we approved. So that's what we got. I don't know what that means. So in my mind, I took all the ones that weren't under barbering services and made them theory hours. That could be completely wrong.
Yeah. And that haircutting, it's also including your safety sanitation in there. It's including your washing, I mean, just everything that has to do with that. So they're allowing 320 hours for that to get 160 procedures. And it could go all the way. Yeah, I mean, that's how that's figured out.
Yeah, so and on number 6, on page, are you talking about go back to the rule?
Yes.
On page 15 breaks down to 16.
Yes.
But you just need to hand it out.
On the rule set.
On the rule.
Oh, okay, page 15, okay, I just want to stay with you.
It says the 465 practical procedures listed in subsection 4 of this rule must include the barbering procedure listed below, blah, blah, blah. And then number 6, the 625 hours of supervised practical experience required in subject 1 must include client consultation, cleaning, disinfection, sterilization. So it's including, you're not just learning it in theory, you have to make sure that you're learning it when you're doing all the other stuff. You're actually, I believe, don't like swear me to it, that when back in, I don't even know when it was, 2017, when all the schools got together and it was a big thing. I believe it was 1 hour for a barber service from start to finish. It's what you guys thought. Consultation, and that was the whole thing. Consultation says, so that's what that means. Maybe it needs to say more than that. But that's how
Some of those hours could come from hair structure and growth, it could be scalp conditions, things like that were all included in that 300.
And honestly, I tried to find that documentation.
So my question here is, are we trying to manipulate these hours or are we, I thought we were trying to manipulate the hours to figure out how to make this work with staying within the parameter of the hours.
Yeah.
If we don't need to do that, we can move on. I thought that's what we were trying to do, was find a space where we could add some hours for theory.
Yeah, I got.
Am I wrong?
No, that's right.
Okay, so if we were theoretically trying to find some hours, my position is in that haircutting structure, you could take a few hours from there to put it elsewhere where you needed it. That's where I was at with this proposal.
Haircutting structure. What are you reading?
I'm on page 12 and I was looking at what you guys, originally we were trying to find hours, right?
Yeah.
To go into other places. Okay, so we are taking the 98.5 whatever hours and we wanted to beef it up to what? I'm lost.
You guys want.
Yeah,
Two.
so where do we want to go with that? Are we gonna leave it or are we gonna work it? Let's talk
Somebody
about
said they
that.
wanted double microbiology. Somebody said they wanted barbering services, foundation fundamentals to be maybe 10% of the 687. But that would be additional in theory.
Okay, so if we took 10% of the 687, is that what you're saying? We took 10% of
And you
that.
did that in theory for barbering services. My question is, Because what I heard was they would need to know like about the scalp and these things, and in my mind, I thought you would learn that in anatomy and physiology, because this is anatomy and physiology of the head. So if that's true, I don't know why you would need barbering spoons. Because you would be learning that anatomy and physiology. Maybe you want to go deep into anatomy and physiology and say something more specific.
Tammy, why do we need to bump up the hours? So that's back to why are we trying to do more than what barbering schools do? I don't understand that. Why are we making it harder?
I think we just need to take.
Because it says 25% is for theory. 25% of the program is in theory, and we don't have 25% in theory.
What percentage do we have right now?
It's like 13%. If you do the math in 786 hours, if 25% of that is theory, is 196.
I mean, yeah, this is a recommendation within the document. That doesn't mean it's a must. It's a may.
Yeah, that's just a recommendation.
It's what it said.
Do you feel like though, if it is recommended to have that percentage of hours, that students should be getting that percentage of hours for theory?
Please state your name when you talk to this Tina.
So if we did that, it would be. $96 would be theory. That sounds accurate?
196, I don't know, I'm not a mathematician, I don't even really know
Does
this.
that sound like the right amount of hours? That sounds like the right amount of hours.
25% of the
86.
786, 25% of that is 196 hours. That's what you're saying. Okay, yes,
That's the appropriate.
I agree with you, yes.
That's the appropriate number of theory hours they should be learning.
If you're basing this on your 25%, that's what 25% would be. So
That's what you think they should have spent on theory. Or do you think they should spend 5%, which is what the 985 is? 98.5. You tell me, I could give the board both. Let them decide. I mean, but what
because we're putting in safety and sanitation and all these other places, and it's really convoluted at this point, I would say, let's leave it as it is for this moment, and then we could revisit it later if need be.
Revisiting it, is it gonna help? We need to figure, what are we gonna do?
Okay, so because Sammy, you're making this program up with your experience, if you're saying that you want 25% to be done in theory.
I'm not
No,
saying
she's
that.
not saying
I'm
that.
giving you a number and asking you, if I'm a provisional certificate holder, am I going to know baseline competencies to perform barbering if I have had 196 hours of theory? Is that gonna give you the baseline competence? Or no, is it not? You need 250 hours, or you know what? 98.5 hours is fine. I'm not teaching it, I'm not supervising it, so I don't know.
Does anybody else in the board have ideas or input of the 25?
This is Carrie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Carrie Weed. Does anybody else, part of the program here, have ideas about this?
I guess for me, if 195 is 25%, we definitely need more theory hours if we're still under 100. I guess since this is my first meeting with you guys, I don't know the breakdown of theory hours and what that is already at, like what the numbers are for how many hours for all the different, like you said, physiology and anatomy, and I don't know, a whole lot of how that's broken down already.
Yeah, so what you guys are looking at on page 2 for minimum operations is what the schools are doing currently.
And then also on page 12 of your.
Yes, this is Carrie. As a school, 25% of our program hours are theory hours. So that's
Right.
classroom lecture, that kind of stuff as well too. So as an educational facility, I do not believe 98 hours of theory is enough for a 786-hour program.
Okay, so Carrie, this is Tina. I just have one question for you.
Yes.
Where it's the barbering and services and all those hours, is any of that theory in those hours currently in your school? You're not those out into all these other hours. You're teaching part of theory within barbering services, correct?
Yes, because if you look under barbering services that say hair and scalp, facial massage, hair cutting, hairstyling, shaving, mustache, there is a portion of that is theory. There's foundation of hairstyling. There's foundation of facial treatments. You've got, it's not just microbiology, anatomy. You're going through product ingredients. You are going through, I mean, if you just look at the Milady book of those barbering services, there are chapters based on hair cutting, hairstyling, shaves, all of that kind of stuff has chapters to it. And there's a theory, a foundation, learning objectives for that barbering services.
Okay, so this is Tina again. So what I'm hearing you say is you want that all spelled out in here, and you want to take these hours from barbering services and put them into theory hours? Or do you want them to go by the My Lady textbook and the Pivot Point textbook and actually go through all those chapters to get exactly what these hours are currently that you're teaching in your school?
That's why my recommendation was 10% of those hours would be theory, foundation.
So this is Tina again. So in the training program that's given to the individuals that are going to be doing the training, it would be spelled out a little bit more. I don't think that you have to change all these hours in here to get where the requirements of the teaching packet is going to get you.
Then just take the simple number of 25% of the 786 is theory hours.
This is Tammy. I was going to say that instead of these numbers that you have, Sammy, not that your numbers are bad, they're beautiful numbers down there. I say we just go by what it said. 50% clinic, 25% special projects and mannequins, that's interesting, and 25% theory. I think that instead of breaking out all these random numbers that we kind of got going down and change it to take those 5s away, the 0.5s. Because Cindy or Tina does not like the 0.5.
But
So
I'm not breaking this down for somebody, that's not how we break it down for schools.
But in this one, it's not. It's literally.
That's just because it doesn't have theory over here, doesn't mean it's not.
No, right, but that includes the theory. These numbers, these hours are included in the theory. Instead of saying 100 hours of theory, it's in those hours. It's built into those numbers.
Well, I think that as a school, you understand that, but I'm not sure if supervisor going into this meeting would understand.
Well, then we do the 25%. We say 786 and we take what's 25% of that. That's the number we put on there.
And I think we need to give them some guidance.
Yeah.
So maybe we use that on theory.
So
This is,
We're hearing several things. So
Yeah.
hearing you say, take on all the numbers and just put 25%, whatever. I'm hearing you say, get more detailed with the information. I can do either, but I don't know what the group wants.
this is Tina, what I'm saying is if this study packet went out to the trainer and the curriculum is broken down, just like your guys' curriculum for what they teach, it's going to come back to these hours that are already here. So they're not going to just get this little piece of paper. We can give them this breakdown, which is going to give them a guide for the curriculum to train. Right?
Yeah. But how many hours would you like for theory? If you're somebody new and you are going to, hey, okay, I'm gonna train somebody to do Barbara. What do I do? And you just say 25% of this something, but you give no structure of what that 25% should entail. No, that's not very helpful.
Margaret has her hand up.
Margaret?
Well, this is Margaret. I like the 25% idea, but you can also say, here's the guidelines these are the topics that need to be included in that 25%. And they will be found in your textbook that you're using to study theory.
25% of the 786 is
196.
196.
So if you were to bump this up, if you were to manipulate it, get it to the 196, this is Pam Pacheco. If you took more hours in career development, you took a few more hours in Oregon laws and rules, you put in hours for safety and sanitation, and you bumped up the microbiology, you'd be pretty darn close to getting to that 25%, even though it's included here, there, and everywhere. The one thing that Oregon Health Licensing and all of us want to do is make sure everybody's working safe and sanitary. So there's no time limit here for safety and sanitation, even though you're saying it's included. As a salon owner, looking at this packet, not knowing, I'm gonna go, yeah, I don't have to worry about safety and sanitation. But if you put hours there, we're trying to bump it up, remember? If you put some hours there, you put 40 hours for safety and sanitation, they're gonna go, okay, I gotta really look at this.
Instead of 14.
Instead of none. For
Really?
safety and sanitation, you said approximately 10% of the time spent on services should be related to safety and sanitation. So if we took that, that would at least be 20 hours.
The rule I have it. The OE says the program must include our theory hours, safety, safe use of devices, and federal regulations and standards. You want that to be safety and sanitation?
Well, you have it listed here, safety and sanitation, instead of this approximately 10%. If you took that word out, you put a number there. Again, busy people are gonna look at numbers more than looking at words. They're gonna go, okay, I gotta spend that amount of my time on safety and sanitation. You know, it's in all of the other places. You know, your microbiology, going through all of these. We have bloodborne pathogens and requirements now. And there could be more room for spending focused time on those areas if we are trying to add in more hours. Yes, I mean, that's not my.
I do want to point out something. The reason why those hours, those safety sanitation hours went away during the curriculum process is because schools were calling me all the time saying students only think they have to do 150 hours of safety sanitation and they're done. So they no longer have to do safety sanitation during every procedure. And that's why it was taken out. We never did the hourly requirement anymore because you have to do it every single procedure. You can't just put a number for safety sand down and that's.
I think you can if you put it under theory. And then you have another rule that says, by the way, at every procedure that you do, it must include safety, infection control.
Yeah, I feel like sanitation is theory and practical because you do have to use it with every procedure that you do on the floor. And then you also need to know like the whys and ingredients and if things are, like fungicidal or all of that. I think you need to use it both ways.
And this paper, Pam Pacheco, we're looking at this through the lens of the salon owner. So this is, like we said earlier, if somebody's looking at this packet for their direction, I am of the position that we could include to get to our 25%. We're trying to get to our 25% theory hours, we can bump up in those areas to get closer to that place.
Right, and then Carrie, this is Sammy, Carrie wanted stuff in the barbering services.
So where in the barbering services would we
I don't know.
elevate? Carrie?
Yes.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Where would we bump up in hair services, the hours?
Well, my recommendation is just to take 10% of them, or we could make a specific line item because that's where your foundation comes in with hair services.
So you're
Just
saying
because you
bump
do
up all the numbers by 10%?
No, I'm just trying to get, if we're trying to get to 25% of our, if you do this, simply said, if you are trying to get towards that 25%, right? Don't change the numbers over here. Maybe, like you said, bump up your microbiology to 16 instead of 8. But if you keep the number, Sammy, just like you had, that you added up to 98.5, bump up the microbiology. We talked about that. And then just put a line item that said barbering services theory foundations. And you put that at, say, 68 because it's 687 hours and you take 10% of that. Then 68 hours, you put one line item that says barbering foundation, styling, cutting, shaving, facial treatments, etc.
Derek, I don't know if it would help if we simply outline the different subjects that we want them to learn and then go one by one and kind of get a rough idea and then we'll total it and then tweak it from there.
Yeah.
That would be easier.
Yeah, yeah. You want to use the whiteboard, Derek?
Not particularly, but
Might be helpful.
I mean, do we just want to go down like, I mean, physiology?
So let's pretend like we're gonna do 25% of the 786. So we're gonna do 196 number theory. So. What do you need them to learn? Anatomy and physiology. Check.
So here's Carrie again. Sorry, if I'm pulling up the barbering textbook. And now my apologies that I don't have a pivot point next to me, but I have Milady. So there are chapters that say hair and scalp properties, hair and scalp disorders and diseases, principles of hair design, hair and service preparation, hair cutting, hair styling, facial treatments, shaving, facial hair design services, hair loss. So that is what we could refer to as that 10% of barbering services. That would be your theory and foundation are those topics. Now, do we need to break that down specifically? No.
You just did. You don't want it broken down the way you just said it?
I don't think we do. I think if we just say theory and foundation of barbering services at 68 hours or 70 hours, it'd be 10% of that or not.
70 hours there, and we doubled 8 hours there, and we put in 20 hours here, 28 and 70 is 98. We're almost at double right there. to the 25%. We have 98 already. We need to get to 196 by adding 98. We're 98 and 98. It's one that we're there. We did it. If that's what we did. You put 70 hours as barbering service foundations, fundamentals, whatever word you want to use. And then you had additional 8 hours in microbiology and 20 hours in safety and sanitation. That would work out to 25% of theory hours.
All right, how many hours did you say for safety and sanitation?
Safety and sanitation would be 20 hours. 16 hours instead of 8 on microbiology and 70 hours in barbering service fundamentals.
Is Tina, what about safety sanitation the rest of the way through the program? You're saying 20
But
hours.
that's just the theory and the foundation of it. That's not the adaptive hands-on of it. The adaptive and hands-on of it falls under the operations because we've already established that when you're doing the operation that we're allowing 2 hours for, you're putting your safety and sanitation adaptive hands-on procedures into that. That 20 hours recommended for safety and sanitation is theory foundation bookwork.
Perfect, thanks, Carrie.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you for lunch.
Okay, so here's what I have. We changed the theory hours 25% into 786, take out the 0.5. And so it's 196 hours of theory, foundation and bookwork. Anatomy and physiology stays at 22 hours, microbiology stays at 60, is up 16. Implements, tools, and equipment goes to 5, instead of 5.5. Knowledge, product knowledge, chemistry is 9 hours. Safe use of the devices, federal regulations and standards, 14 hours. Safety, sanitation, infection controls, 20 hours. Career development, say the 20. Organ laws and rules is 20. And barbering services, foundation and fundamentals is 7. And that equals the 196. Does everyone feel good about that?
That
Yes.
sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
Tammy.
Yeah.
Margaret, yes.
They have 590 hours later. 590 hours to do the 400 procedure. 465 procedures, is that right?
Well, you have 25% management projects and experiments. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, we're taking that out. We're changing it. Something else.
So, okay, so is it gonna be 75% is on life science then? Is that?
You guys tell me. How do you do it in schools? What do you have them practice on before they start practicing on the person?
Mannequins.
You have enough mannequins?
But they're not barbering those. So they're cut, yes, they do 0-degree haircuts, they do 90-degree haircuts, they do 45-degree haircuts, but they're not, they Yes, they do all of that
on a mannequin.
on a
And the
mannequin.
hair doesn't grow back.
Right, but.
Well, you said that earlier. I want to be.
No, but my argument was you had 100 requirements on a mannequin, that was, but I was saying not do it on a mannequin. I just said the 100 I thought was excessive. No, they do, most of their perm wraps are on mannequins because we don't have that many perms. Their shampoo sets, we are not running a school with a bunch of LOLs. So we do almost all of their shampoo sets, wet sets are on mannequins.
And that's what you're gonna face, this is Pam, in a salon environment. People don't do perms today in salons, a lot of salons. They don't do chemical relaxers in salons. But it's still required. They still have to know how to do it. So they are gonna be reliant on the mannequin. That's how they have to do it.
I agree that they're gonna use mannequins. I never disagreed with that. What I disagreed with for the barbering was 100. That number seemed like a lot for a mannequin for barbering, where you're not doing shampoo sets and perm wraps. And yes, they do work a lot on their mannequin, but they're not cutting their hair.
This is Derek. Sandy, what did you say was the total number of hours we had to play with?
By 90.
It's almost 600. So you said of those 600, they have to complete 465 procedures. We want to break that down, like you said. Of the 465 procedures, 25% have to be on mannequin, the rest can be on a light model or.
I mean, that's what I did, and it was 100.
Oh, okay.
25% of 4, it was 100, that's what I did, but obviously now that I think about it, if you don't have 100 mannequins, you're haircutting.
I mean, we could say a specific number, like 50 or.
To break it down farther.
And it doesn't, in this, what it's showing here, it says projects and experiments. That doesn't mean that it all has to happen on a mannequin. Projects and experiments could be whatever, it could be you put together a vision board that shows different haircuts out of things you cut out of a magazine and have to explain. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do the only thing I was saying was 100 procedures on a mannequin for barbering, not hair, but barbering seemed like a lot.
I agree.
So this is Derek. For barbering, is there a number of procedures that you think would be manageable on a mannequin?
75, 50, what would be better, 75 or 50? Yes, still. Yeah, for barbering. 50's too much on a mannequin.
I would say no, that's not too much. Really? Because they are gonna do scalp treatments, they can practice those, there's different things they can do, facial treatments.
Styling.
This is Tammy, by the way, if you don't know my voice by now, but, I just.
Yeah.
I think I took this a little bit from their curriculum and a little bit from body nursing. Oh, from human. Live human being, and that's what. For 50 practical procedures, which professional certificate holder works on mannequins. Do you want me to add visions, not vision board, or whatever the terms are?
I think projects and experiments are great.
Should I put that in? I think that's fine.
You have that there already. On mannequin projects and experiments.
Yeah.
Oh, and stuff, yeah.
Right, so. So then would you do, so you take your 50 hours from the management projects and experiments, where would you want to put? Where do we want to put it between speed and speedy? Yeah. And this is where direct supervision and indirect supervision are used. And maybe you don't have that, maybe only one kind of supervision, I don't know.
Miss Tina maybe teach to 150 practical that you're supervised for the supervision.
Do that again. You're looking for that additional 15 to go somewhere, put it.
To 200 practical with direct supervision. How many, when you guys are in school and you're doing cuts, how many are direct supervision?
This is Tammy. I mean, literally, there are one-on-ones that happen on a regular, which would be what would be considered direct supervision. I don't know that it's 150. But that's also, this is barbering, which. So are you, I guess I'm confused. Because haircuts, it's saying 150 procedures, but it's only 160 required. So these numbers don't make, if you're talking theory, or are you talking practical procedures? Because they're only required to do 160 haircuts. You got 150 of them direct supervision and 215 indirect. So those numbers don't add up. So I feel like this is theory you're giving them credit. I don't know. Because
well, the 150, sorry, this is Tricia. The 150 is all procedures, not just hair cutting, but all of them.
Okay, but if you think this, Tammy, again, if you think about barbering, so they're doing haircuts, styles, beard trims, shaves, so how many, 465 procedures, so, okay, so this is not necessarily just haircuts.
Right, and it does have it on page 15, it does have it broken down. So only 465 practical procedures,
Right.
20 in that.
I was just confused about these numbers for a second. So, yeah, they're not, a lot are indirect for answering your question you would ask, but because you're not standing there one-on-one the whole time, moving around, all of them, they're all kind of indirectly still being watched.
I mean, you could define indirect and direct all different ways. Sometimes people would define indirect as that they're not in the building, but they're available. So indirect, I mean, you can define it any way you want.
Absolutely, you can rent in a salon, not a school.
Right.
It's our challenge. You've got a salon owner or a journeyman that is gonna be busy, they're gonna be working on clients, they're gonna specify some time to show them how to do haircuts, and this is what you work on. You're gonna be working on that over there. I'm gonna be dealing with my clients, and then they're gonna actually start doing that on their own clients. So, the practical procedures with direct supervision and indirect supervision in a salon is very different than in a school. Okay.
Tammy, I would say though, indirect or direct, the supervisor needs to be in the building, not off-site or because things can go wrong. And somebody needs to be there to mop that up.
Because you guys said we're to put that 50 hours.
Oh, yeah. To the 150. So you could do practical procedures and indirect supervision, you could bump it up to 65. Or you could bump direct supervision to 200. You 175 for direct. And 480. Yeah, do 40 for indirect. So indirect, put the 50 there. We'll take it to 265. Then indirect supervision is definitely in the building. And direct supervision is like line of sight. Yeah.
And that's described in the requirements for the person taking on the position, is that they have to provide the training, right? So it's complied. When we had Pam, when we had our requirements for the instructor, not the instructor, the provision, what do we call it?
Supervisor.
Supervisor, thank you. The supervisor has the list of requirements that they have to be on site.
You guys to define in these rules.
Okay,
But if that is something that you decide that it would be on at least one of the sheets that would make the
right,
supervisor.
okay,
yeah,
so now I'm posing that I think that my position is we should notate that the supervisor needs to be on site during all training, training hours.
And this is Tammy, I kind of looked ahead on page 16. And I noticed that it says that there can be more than one supervisor, but there needs to be one like lead supervisor, kind of like the salon needs to have a manager or whatever.
Do that, but I put it in there in case you had one. You don't have to.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that as long as everybody meets the requirement, they have to be licensed in the field for at least 5 consecutive years, whatever we talked about, but I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Oh, that's what they do? Well, and if we all know that's working for them, so.
What line item was that?
It's on page 16, it's on 11.
11, line item 11.
Certificate holder has more than one supervisor plus be designated as a primary supervisor.
They all, I'm seeing here. Including not one difference between tracking form, certification, forms, so I'm giving you a list of the types of things that you're gonna have to keep in the package. So, under procedures, we changed, I'm telling everybody this. The 465 practical procedures include 50 practical procedures. Provisional certificate holder works on mannequins, projects, and experiments. 150 practical procedures. On live human beings that are direct supervision, but without assistance. 265 practical procedures on live human being under indirect supervision, but all supervision would require supervisor to be on site. So I'll have to fiddle with that. So is everybody okay with that change, those changes? Yes. Okay.
So the number, yeah. Sorry, this Tina, I have a question. What does it mean when you say without assistant? If it's direct supervision.
Well, I don't think it's necessary to put that in there personally.
I mean, there's times with this, Tammy, there's times when you're actually put your hand in there and you say, okay, you're gonna hold the hair like this, you're gonna make sure you palm your shins like this, you're gonna do those types of things. But after you've shown that, most of the procedures happen without assistance. But that what it feels like it means to me is that, oh, I'm standing next to Michelle while she's doing, but 150 haircuts or whatever procedures is a lot with me standing there next to her. So, I think you do some of that, but you're not.
Well, it depends on how you define direct supervision.
I think we take off the without.
Yes.
Assistance. Direct, I mean, right next to you, and still is direct.
You can just take out, it can just be under supervision, and supervision means being in the building.
Under direct supervision. Period.
Yeah, I think the assistance part.
No. So do you have direct and indirect, or can it just be supervision? Supervision means you have to be outside.
I'm direct and indirect. And what do they find like a book?
What are the meaning? How are they different?
The way you have it worded here is fine. I think it's.
It doesn't mean anything. Top. Gotta mean something. And I have direct supervision means supervisor is on site and immediately accessible. And individual capacity procedure to provide guidance and instruction. Indirect supervision means supervisor is on site and immediately accessible and like guidance and instruction. Typical supervisor is not required to do a review of the procedure or provide supervision. That was wrong. Well, that's what I put here, but there's all kinds of options. Just what me and Derek thought was the best option. But for many. Or you don't have to have it. You can just say supervision. Supervision means that supervisor must be in the building somewhere. The problem, I think, is when you start dealing with like chemicals and stuff, you might want to have them a little bit closer. In this situation, you're not dealing with that. I mean, I hope they're not gonna stab people in the eye with the shears, but you never know. I guess.
Personally, I think it makes sense to have the classification of direct supervision and indirect supervision. You've gone through basic description of that. I think it's good as it is. But it does signify a difference between being in the room and being close at hand. So.
You could say immediate, John.
It could be, for direct supervision, it could be immediate assistance. Or in immediate area. I just Googled it, I'm trying to get it.
Immediately accessible and in view. Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, good.
This is, because I was gonna say, when you're first going out on the floor, the schools I've been in, there's always an instructor assisting during that time, and then later after they're been going there into their senior, you guys aren't assisting.
Right
now.
So
So,
we're getting to the smaller arenas, so
Right.
you might be right next. There's that place at all times. Okay. Everybody cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can.
That's good verbiage.
So we are on. Where are we? 16. That's literally supposed to do. We are on page 4. Page 15. 15? Number 5. Okay. So it breaks down to 465 hours.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah. Okay, so everyone's okay with the breakdown? Actually, look in the curriculum on page 3. 2021-61 540. Minimum operations. Column 2. Okay, and then number 6, I'll change this to 590.
590.
Okay. And then this is where it says the experience, the practical experience required in subsection 1 of this rule must include client consultation, cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization. And you can, and the must include. But it's not limited to, and you get a list. And so there could be other things that are also required. But they have to be similar. There are other things you want to say to make it clear that like this is the start to finish deal? It doesn't just cut a hair.
I'm just questioning Pam Pacheco, number 8, that the direct supervision operations listed of this role prior to performing indirect supervision
Have we moved on to
operations
6 and
listed?
7?
Number 8.
Did we finish 6 and 7?
Which page? I'm sorry, this is Margaret.
Page 15, where we're on number 6.
6.
Thank you.
Making sure that that list, like a client consultation, cleaning and disinfection, that they understand that those 590 hours needs to include all of that, not just the procedure, but everything. Sorry. And then 7. It's just something I say here, say it again, different way. And then number 8, where Pam had a question.
It says, number 8, must complete all of the direct supervision operations before performing indirect operations.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have that.
Logically, I think they can coincide, because if you're teaching, say, the basics, you'd have them work on it and then they practice. And then you go to a more advanced technique and they work on it and practice. So my personal opinion is they can be, they can coincide with one another.
So the way we did it, why did I not add it? Maybe because it was it was too complicated, so I didn't add it. So under the board rules, we contemplated this one. Here we go. A student may, so you could reword this to say, provisional certificate holder may not perform a practical operating procedure until the supervisor determines the person has met all competencies for the operation. For example, the student has completed theory portion of the facial, or you could say the indirect or direct. And the school determines they're competent, then they can start communications. So it can be cordoned off, where they can do facial, but they're still learning about haircut. That's how we solved it here, and I can put that over here, but move that between. That makes sense? I think I tried and I gave up.
So it's not necessarily you have to do all direct supervision of A, B, C, D, E, and F before you move on to
You
any
might
indirect.
just do
But you
B.
can do, okay, you can do a section of direct, then move on to the indirect in that same section.
Yes. So somehow remember that, Erin. We have to say that.
Okay.
So you could use the word, I apologize, Tammy, you could use the word with, competency approval to pass to the indirect. And she spelled it out earlier there. I'm sorry, Tammy.
That's all right. This is Tammy. So did you change the wording about direct and indirect, or did we left it? We left that, okay. So could it, like she just said, is once it's been determined that their competency has been met, then they don't have to have direct supervision, but they must always be supervised.
Yeah.
I think that's important to make sure that's in there. You don't get to go shopping because you think you can do a haircut now.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it was Tina, if you're just working in one, you see you're just doing barbering, and you've got how many hours you have to have under indirect, or how many procedures. How would that work? When if we just say supervision?
That's what I
Well,
was too.
because if you have a set amount of hours that you have to do in direct, and then say, I'm really good, I've been doing that at my house forever, and now I'm gonna rip and go there.
All it's saying is if the supervisor determines you're proficient in doing a facial, go ahead and do a facial and direct supervision. And keep on
Yes.
cutting the hair if you're not proficient yet.
Because if you get all your indirect supervision done, you can put that into direct supervision. Right?
No,
If you,
got direct.
if you have, yes, if you have to have the 150 direct supervision and you're really good at it and you get those done and they say you're competent, you can now do indirect and you get all those done. And you still have a few of the direct supervision that you need to do, just like with a pedicure or a spa pedicure, basic pedicure. If you get all of your spa pedicures done and you still need a few basic pedicures, you can move it over to that area because you're still doing it. But you're doing it without the help. Does that make sense? That's the point I'm trying to make there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Me and
you get
Derek
those
were
numbers calculated.
This is Carrie. I think that the change in verbiage that you put before, I think kind of helps cover this, and maybe, like was mentioned, put in this must complete all their unless determined competent for procedure or something like that. Meaning they can go through an assessment to make sure that they're competent. And once they've passed that assessment, then it doesn't have to be direct. So I think that might be an option, determined competent.
Yep. We'll work on it. Bring it back. And so now we're on number 11.
Whoa, nice.
Okay, back to 9.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. There's no certificate holder to supervisor ratio up to 4 procedures, 4 provisional certificate holders, and 1 supervisor. My school is rated 125.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you just said? Nine what?
Schools is 1. One teacher.
Advanced
15 in the classroom.
4 to 1.
Oh, 15, 1 to 15.
Yeah, it's 15.
Darn.
No, I will right here. I'm in it
1 to
every day.
15 students present, 1 by 2.
this is Tammy. I think that moving down to 11, if there's more than one supervisor, it could become a big thing. I don't know what that matters, but 1 to 4 people in a salon could be a lot, but
That's what I thought.
you know, it can happen. I feel like it can happen. That's a lot of eyes to have on in
When
a
you're in
small
the
area,
salon.
but
Yeah.
Is that, wait, clarification, this is Carrie, sorry, clarification. You don't mean 4 supervisors to 1 trainee, you mean one,
One supervisor to 4.
right, 1 supervisor to 4 trainees, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, just making sure.
Pam Pacheco thinks it should stay 1-to-1. And then if you have more than one trainee in a salon, the other staff members could come along, provided they have the help, let's call it journeyman, to help out with the others, but the education part of it should stay 1-to-1.
This is Jared. So in order to provide that supervision, everyone in there would have to be a registered supervisor.
No. So the supervisor, the primary supervisor takes on 1 trainee, 1-to-1. That's what I'm saying. If the salon has 15 people in it and the primary supervisor oversees 3 other supervisors, however many trainees they have in the salon at one time, they would need to have a supervisor with that trainee. Now, they can cross market, I don't care, but if there's 4 trainees, they should have 4 supervisors, 1 primary and 3 trainees. That's my. And it's how it's worded here. I think that is accurate. In school, it's different, but in a salon environment, I think it should stay 1-to-1.
Let me get this right. This Tina, you want 1-to-1, so this supervisor could not have 4 under her.
The salon could have 4.
No, that's not possible.
Okay, so you're saying here the primary supervisor can have other people working with them, but 1 supervisor has to be the primary and the other supervisors work under the primary. So that the primary.
They're still supervisor.
Okay.
You want to hold these documents, basically, making sure they're complete.
Yeah, one's just in charge.
So they're not like.
But what I'm saying is for every trainee, there should be a supervisor with that trainee. You want 1-to-1, that's my position.
Yeah, I know, this is, yeah, but we can try.
this is Tammy, and I don't, not to argue or anything, but I don't really agree. I do think you can do 4-to-1. I think that is, and I don't think we need to worry about the size of the salon or how many people work in it. I don't think that's our job. I think that if Cindy thinks she can supervise 4 people, she should be allowed to do that, in my opinion.
This is Pam, you've got to remember that they're still working on clients. They're working on their own clientele.
Never saying that.
No, then the supervisor's still working on their own clients, you're assuming it.
Oh, well, I know what salon reality is. I absolutely know what salon reality is, and salon reality is different than school.
Strictly training and charging people, and that's they're not doing these haircuts on them. I don't know. We can't make that assumption, but you could break it up where you have the 150 and your direct supervision has to be 1-to-1, and then anything under indirect is 1-to-4, so it could be different.
So anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, I like that. Oh, this is Margaret. Sorry. I like the last, what you just said. 1 is for direct and 1-to-4 for indirect. Is that what you just said, Sammy?
Brianna also has her hand up and is after that.
Okay, Liz, Brianna
Brianna first.
Brianna, Liz, and then Trish.
Hi, Brianna. So, I mean, I can get capping at like maybe 4 or 5, but I think this situation too, we're gonna find people are gonna not maybe come every single day. So, like, I wouldn't see the problem having a couple people under one supervisor. I mean, it's still gonna, I don't know, the capping it 1-to-1 seems not realistic.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. This is Liz. I mean, I totally respect, we want to make sure that, they're getting everything that they need, but I do agree that to cap it at 1-to-1 does kind of limit. I know, I mean, in my own company, we would be able to handle more than one. And, there's the indirect and the direct that is, going to help ease that through. And I think just organically, people aren't going to start out with 4 people that they're working through. They're going to have their systems put into place. And, I don't think we're going to have a mad rush of people. I mean, maybe, but capping it, I don't know if that's our place to do that.
This is Carrie. My recommendation is more than 1-to-1. I don't think 4-to-1 is too bad, but it might be an option to do, like you mentioned, direct versus indirect, but I don't think it needs to be 1-to-1.
We need to be called on. And then Trish, this is Trisha. One thing I think we need to keep in mind is that the intent of this is to help people get the training in these rural areas. If we're limited to the salons and then we limit them to only one student, somebody's gonna have to wait months and months and months to even start their program. Defeats kind of the purpose of it. But also, I think a lot of these people will probably have, in most cases, they might have a family at home. They're only gonna be doing this part-time. So to limit them to only having one person in the salon at a time, what if they want to do multiple people at different times? Maybe somebody can go in Monday and Wednesday, and the other person wants to go in Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe having a cap at one time versus in whole. Because you could theoretically do 2 one day, 2 another day, there's your 4. You could do 3 one day, 3 another day, there's 6. But if you cap it at any given time versus, or, any one day versus, or, like at one time versus in whole.
That is a very valid point. I think that makes perfect sense. If we broke it down maybe to that direct supervision versus indirect supervision. There are those that are working part-time. A lot of people do work part-time today as opposed to full-time. So if you had during the direct supervision phase of training or entry phase of training, it's 1-to-1, and once they get the competency approval, then they can go to a 4-to-1 ratio. I don't know. Again, you're not looking at vast numbers like you would a school. It's going to be a salon owner is going to say, I want to work with somebody. So they'll take that one person on and work with them. And then they go, okay, well, that worked out. Well, maybe I'll get another one after this one's done. We're certainly close to finishing up, but I would like to see that the trainees get that full attention, that they get the attention that they deserve.
Mina has her hand up online as well.
Real quick, this is Tammy. I think that the direct supervision is still pretty muddy about what that exactly means. I could sit down with 4 people, teach a nail class, and be right there and watch all 4 of them at the same time. I wouldn't need to only put my eyes on one person. So I still think that if I'm right there with those 4 people, I'm still directly supervising them, and I think that that's still appropriate. You could stand between 2 people while they're doing a haircut, and you need to use a little bit better tension, or you need to do this, or whatever, pull your hands up, whatever it is, that's still considered direct. I'm not walking away from them. And so I still think that it doesn't need to be 1-to-1.
How about me and Derek look at some different options and present things? What this could look like. Brianna?
Yeah, Brianna here. So I think you guys are once again forgetting we're talking rural areas. So I don't know more than 2 people in the next year or 2 that would want to come to me as a supervisor. So we're not gonna get 5 to 20 hitting every salon in the rural area to do this program.
So where I live, we probably are about an hour from any beauty school. So unfortunately, I could totally see, like 5, 6 people wanting to get those hours, underneath them because we just don't have the option here to go to any other really schools. And unfortunately, I don't think many of the salons where we're at are going to have a supervisor to do that either. They'll have a lot of clientele and we turn people away all the time.
Okay, are we done with this one? Next one's the more than one supervisor, and the next one's the approving original certificate barbering training program. And then on there, we're gonna do a 10-minute break. Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break and we'll start on page 17 when we get back. Hopefully we get it together.
Back at 12:54.
Yes. I'm getting there. Okay, we're on page 17, and this is the provisional certificates in the field of practice. So this just here tells you what the license is, what it does, what it is, what it can do, when it can renew, all of those things. So let's go through them. Provisional certificate holder who is certified under, and there was a typo here. It was 2238. I added 0 in, Margaret. There it is.
Very good.
They perform services in the field of practice, so it's just generic.
Up top, it's 3 feet, now there's 0. First one. Right there.
23, what? Oh, it's 38.
Maybe we just them. Oh, the last name. Maybe we just needed her too. And then number 2 is original certificate holder may only provide service in the field of practice, which the original certificate holder is certified in. He is certified in more than one field of practice. He provides service in the field under practitioner certified in the same field of practice. He is pro supervisor under the rule down below. May not be supervised remotely. And I highlight that one because of the supervision piece, and now we figured that out, so it's accurate. Why it's blue here. I like the color. May not provide service in the field of practice. The services are being performed through the appropriate direct or indirect supervision. A lot of repetitive is here. These are noted. May have more than one supervisor, may not supervise any person, so they can't supervise. Must work in a licensed facility. That was a question you guys had. Because I said, what
That's
about?
nice. Oh, sorry, this is Carrie. Like that. That's a nice one.
Figured that one out. Yeah, I don't have a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna see if there's any benefit to doing like may versus must. Some of these where,
Oh, did you ask?
yeah,
Must,
like
don't may, should, must.
may be may only provide services in the field of practice. Shouldn't it be must? Or is that?
I think it means the same thing.
To me, must or may has a little bit of wiggle room, like it's a suggestion, but that's just nitpicky.
Does the only make it must?
It means the same in A, but in B, it could be changed to must.
Right, I think may works in some of them, but yeah, like you said, for example, that.
So just change them all to must?
I don't think all of them.
Which ones?
Let me
May be certified in more than one field of practice is a may.
Yeah, I think A.
The must.
Be a must.
C must, should be.
So C is a must.
This is Carrie. 2A must only provide services in field of practice.
I think it's the same. May only, you may
I
only
think
do
the
this.
only makes it that way, but if must is more.
One's more adamant.
I did read your comment here. And
I think may not. It's weird, but may versus must. But I'm used to that, so.
Now you know. I've dealt with
Is
it.
E a must?
All
We
the
put
time.
E as a must as well.
It's fine.
F is an A.
For B.
Oh, may not. No,
So non makes
Not
it.
with the may, that makes
may not, but E is fine.
Yeah.
Is B a must? Must only?
I think I see it should be a must. A and C.
Okay. Getting.
It's must.
H says must work in a licensed facility.
Yeah, I'll move on with him.
Okay.
I'll move on. Okay. Yeah. So maybe I'll move all the minute less up. Yeah. You don't remember what that means?
No.
Okay. So are we on? Three. Our first is active for 1 year, so it was a 1 year license. And becomes inactive on the last day of the month, 1 year from date of issuance. A provisional certificate holder may renew the certificate up to blank times, may not reapply for a provisional certificate. Now, this is, it's blue because so there's a couple things you can do. Go ahead.
Well, some we have had in other boards take advantage of leaving it open and not setting a number of years. And we had them like 10 years still in training under one of our programs or boards. So you kind of need to look at that and decide, is it 5 years, can renew up to 5 times? That's up to you guys, what you think.
So this is Tammy. So in cosmetology, typically a lot of things like expire after a couple of years. Is this gonna need to be like continuing on? Like let's say you have family, you need to only be doing school or doing provisional, whatever, half the time or whatever. I think that you're right, 10 years, things change.
Yeah.
Stuff changes in a long period of time.
So, couple things, I hesitate to put a cap on it. Because caps are difficult. And my brain is not working very well on what the solution could be. But there's one solution that we could have a rule putting it. Let's say you're working along, and you decide you're gonna have a baby. So you could put it in baby, or you could do that. You could have, when it's time for renewal, you could have like, I don't think we have any other board meeting. I mean, really what we're trying to do here is, this is where we need to define actively working towards. That's where this, I think, comes into play. Like, you need to show us that you're actively working towards that. I don't know what that is.
Is the point, this is Margaret, is the point of this that you're trying to put a cap on how long they spend in the provisional certificate holder lane? Is that?
It's an option. It's blue because I don't like it. And here's why. Sign language interpreters has a cap on some of theirs, and it is a giant pain. Environmental health has caps, pain. They're just pains. In this situation, we don't have to have a cap because it's not in statute, but I because there is that problem that teenagers talk about. So it's gotta be a way around it. My brain isn't working. It's gotta be in the active.
This is Tina. So one of this is a suggestion. There are some boards that you can't continue to train once you've met all your hour requirements.
Yeah, that's smart.
So that could be something that you put on there. If you've met all of your requirements, you are done.
Oh, you're not.
Hourly requirements. So you're not continuing just to work in the salon under professional license when you've already completed your training.
So on page 18, number 6, it does.
It does, like, timing, was once you have once you can issue the license.
Yeah, once you have
But how would we know? Is there any board that submits stuff as you go?
Not
Yeah, I'm
as you.
pretty sure, isn't it environmental health or something?
No.
Do work history stuff
Now,
as you go?
okay, so if they quit, they send in the hours that they actually finished.
That is a process.
Yeah, they'll send in a certificate saying that they completed X amount of hours. And then once they decide to start up again, then they repay for their license and
What
start.
board is that?
Environmental health is one of them. Only if they quit, but we can tweak it.
And I know with hearing aid trainees that once they're done.
Once they're done, they're done.
That's usually like.
And then they get a temporary license.
Yeah, but they're gonna take a test. So we've got a little bit more monitoring on that.
Well, they get a temporary license while they're waiting to take their test.
Right.
But they're kind of proactive in doing it. They're not just kind of stopping it on.
Yeah, okay, so let me work on that one, because I think we need to address Tina's issue. I hate having.
Could be a problem. I mean, it could be, you can renew your license. I mean, we all know, even if you're part-time, your schooling is gonna probably take more than 2 years, right? If you're doing one discipline, if you're part-time. Now, there could be facilities that the supervisor only works 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Some may work full-time, but that's the kind of where we need to leave it a little bit open. And take all those into consideration and say you can renew it up to X amount of times, or just say you can only renew up until you're done with your training. She'll figure out some wording for it.
I have a question. This is Tammy. So do we know what that provisional certificate or license is gonna cost the person getting it? Do we have any idea?
Maybe around $25.
$25?
I think they bumped it 25 and 25, the application.
Because I was thinking, you know, if you have if your salon, your supervisor's in collusion with you and they want you just to work there under a provisional, you don't have to finish and get to certification. That, I hadn't even thought of that till now. But if it's less expensive to do it that way, then that might be a thing. If it weren't less expensive to do it that way, then why would you do it that way? You know what I mean? If you're paying $50 a year to get your provisional certificate, it's less expensive to just go ahead and get certified and pay your $65 every 2 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that would make sense to do it that way.
To increase the permission.
I mean, that's what's.
I know.
He asked me and I said 50-50, 50 application, 50 provisional.
Well, and yeah, and that's reasonable, and it is incentive to get done, so you can go ahead and get to the 65 every 2 years
Right,
rather
that's
than
true.
paying 50, so you wouldn't be as anxious to do that.
This, Tina, you also could think of it this way, if they're doing one discipline, they have X, so many times. If they're doing two, so many. If they're doing all of them and they're only working part-time, that could take several years to get done. So, yeah,
but yeah.
you're right, I mean, really.
135 hours.
This is question, can you put in there that it's per field of practice?
Awesome.
Like
They're all
2 years,
different.
you can renew 2 times per field of practice, or? Does it work that way?
No, you wouldn't be able to do that because if they're doing all three of them
At the same time, yeah.
or all four, say you got a salon that does everything.
I think in 5 years, if you're not done in 5 years, you're probably not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Is there a situation where you're in a rural community, so you don't really have enough clients? Do you identify these?
You still have your mannequins.
How many mannequins do you have?
We don't do a hair.
We're not loving that down. You could keep buying mannequins and learn everything.
I'll think of, let me fiddle with it and I will bring you something better.
I mean, if you
And I'll
can't get
factor
those done
in
in
the
5 years, there's a problem to being in that community. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because where are you gonna work?
You're not gonna make
You're
money
not
then,
gonna-
yeah.
And logically, how many people are gonna be taking on more than one discipline at a time? I don't see people taking on.
Could be messy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you wanted to safeguard it, you might wanna put one discipline at a time. Per discipline, I like to remember that.
Let's see. You could. Yeah.
You think about that. If we're on number 7, and that's just standard HLO language.
Change the page.
I think that Derek gave me a note about this one. 7.
Yeah, we went to page 18.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, just I think 1 or 2 of our boards has a 5-day limit, and some of them have 10.
Wonder what HLO says. I'm sure we ever line up all of our rooms to be the same. When we did that advertiser thing for one time. We went a 2-day retreat up in Kaiser. We just looked at it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
It sounds 2 days was enough. It was, so this one. I would say 10 days.
They align. You should just say whatever.
Yeah, you must submit form if you change supervisor.
So this is
What number are
Derek
you guys on?
on page 18.
Yeah.
There's nothing in general HLO statutes or rules regarding notification of supervisor, but 30 days is required for notice of personal.
Yeah, that's personal though, because in a lot of our boards, this is Tina, you can't, if you don't have a supervisor, any hours that you do are not counted. So you have to have a supervisor. So if you change supervisors, you can't start. But they have to be approved by us too.
I have
So
Derek's
it
notes, so I'll
should be like 10 days. Because it has to go through our training.
So we wanna change from 5 to 10 days.
She's gonna work on
I'm
it.
gonna look and see what other
boards
have.
When they're done, do they submit some sort of a transcript to you?
Yeah.
Just like we do?
person.
Yeah,
It'll be like a certificate of training, but essentially the same thing.
yeah. And here's some more, I think.
It's fancy because I could, and we'll break down all their hours.
Right. Yeah, because that's what my head went to, well, then the supervisor has to sign off, so that he should know, yeah.
Maybe next time, Jared, we can bring like a model.
Okay.
Like of the rock, maybe not all the tracking and all that, but like an example for your eyes. And it will all become so clear to you.
Take the light.
Carrie has her hand up.
Hi, this is a quick question. We mentioned a transcript, right? And I think it was Josh that mentioned a certificate of completion. I think we do need to require the supervisor to have transcripts, because what happens if that student moves and they have, 200 hours and X number of operations and that kind of stuff, and they transfer to somewhere that is a school? A school's required to have a transcript to honor those hours and that kind of stuff, because we want to be able to move, if somebody moves, to go from this to that.
This is Tina Carey. The certificate of completion for whatever hours they did would still be able to be used to transfer to your school.
Absolutely, but a certificate of completion is just a certificate. The transcript shows the hours, if they took their final written exams, if they've taken practicals, their required operations, and numbered those.
Now, Carrie, on the certificate of completion, those hours will be spelled out. And it will be like a transcript, but we can't give our transcript out to the public. We can only do a certificate of completion.
Well, it's not a school.
Yeah,
so it's not a
it's right.
Well, I know, but what happens if that student leaves that supervisor and they move, say their family moves and they're required to move, they can't finish it up. How do they honor those hours?
The certificate of completion with whatever hours they did will be on that form. And that will be transferable to a school if they so desire. If they're with.
And then, absolutely, but then the school is required to put a transcript, an official transcript with the transcripts that we turn in.
Well, we will accept the certificate of completion with the hours broke down that you will transfer to your transcript, and that transcript will be sent to us with the certificate from their trainer.
So you guys will make the exception to the rule that we don't have to have a transcript, we have to have a certificate of completion.
For this case.
In accompanying the transcript.
Correct.
From a school.
Correct.
This is Derek. We do have a draft of a certificate of training, and we're going to model it as close to the actual transcript as we can. That way, you make the transfer process a lot easier.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Erin.
Hi, I would just add for HEC's perspective and the concern of maybe some schools, as Tina said, it will be up to health licensing to accept whatever documentation you would include with your transcript if you have a student who started out in one of these trainings under a supervisor. So that would take place completely at HLO, because what our rules require is for schools to give credit when they receive an official transcript, which I don't think what would come out of these training programs would qualify. But as Tina said, you guys could, you take that documentation, do your evaluation, make your determination, and submit that with your official transcript, and then it will be up to HLO.
And this is Tina. It's almost like we currently have now, where you have people that are coming from out of country or out of state that have training in say, let's just talk about out of country, they're coming to your school and they're giving you all the supporting documentation of how long they worked, what kind of training they had, and the schools are accepting those, and that's through a credential process. So it wouldn't be really much different than that coming from a training program.
But as a clarification, we don't accept hours unless it's from another school, or in this case, a training program like this. Like they can't get hours based on previous work or previous, education or something like that. It has to be hours coming from another training facility or school.
We call it non-credentialed right now, coming from out of country. And yes, they do transfer to schools in Oregon, coming from out of country. They used to go through HEC, and a letter would be sent to the school and sent to us. Those individuals do go to schools in Oregon. And they transfer their hours in. And it's not always on official transcript from that country.
Well, and this is Sammy, the bill says the number of hours of supervised experience completed by the holder of a provisional certificate shall be credited in equal parts towards the total number of educational hours required for issuance under 690.046. And so they made a requirement. So I'm not, and I think hours of supervised experience completed by someone with a professional certificate will count equally toward the total number of education hours required to receive a full certificate. So I don't know how that law matches up with ORS 345, if that makes it required for tech to take it. I don't know. That's over my head. But it is there, and we'll make sure that it's part of that pathway. Karen.
Yeah, I think with that language in this new law, it's saying that, schools will give credit, right, for those hours, but it's kind of a separate path than transcripted hours. But I think as you've described it, it shouldn't be a problem for schools to take that and do the evaluation, because schools still have the opportunity, just because a student, you're not eliminating any hours that they've already earned in either a transcript or through this training, but you might determine that they need more hours to meet your school's requirements for graduation, if I'm making any sense with that. So a person might have more than the minimum required hours when you take both together. So I think it will work exactly the same.
Yeah. Okay.
So if someone were to move away from a school that they were doing and decide to opt into the training program instead, how would that go about as far as like transferring hours and whatnot?
We can tell you. Yeah, well, my mind would say it should be equal since the other is equal the other way. That would be what would make what I would go with. But it might need to be written out.
Yeah, because this is Tina, how would somebody working in a facility know that they need that transcript and how to calculate those hours and do all that? So schools.
And would it require for school to provide a transcript?
To us. But I mean, if they never finish school, the school usually keeps the transcript and ends the, withdrawal date.
So it goes one way, but not the other.
You don't want to do the official transcript.
Yeah. Exactly.
We don't want to do that.
Teresa has her hand up.
This is Teresa. Schools can't withhold transcripts for students, so they would still be able to provide those to a practitioner if they did transfer out.
What other organizations have done is offer up to a percentage of previous work credits, like up to 500 hours from transcripts that could be excused, but not, so that would go into the provisional thing. If they've been to a school and they can document that they have over 500 hours, the provisional person could credit up to 500 hours for that education. If they can prove it, they have to be able to prove it. So there's value there, but not more than that.
How do they prove it?
They have to be able to document it. So with transcripts, if somebody says, I went through 800 hours in school and I completed these elements, I got, through my haircutting, my, this, that, and the other, then the supervisor could give them previous work credit benefit for those areas that they've already completed in school.
This is Tina, we'd have to write something out. I have one question. I'm thinking two different ways, but when the school has somebody that drops out, you give them an incomplete transcript at that time. Some schools do, some schools don't.
Okay.
I know that people come to us saying, the school never gave me the transcript, so they're withholding it for X number of reasons. So,
Okay, I have the reading things. This is Tammy. I have a couple of thoughts on it. So the transcript, if someone is going to go to a provisional from a school, I don't understand why they couldn't. The transcript, like let's say they were in my school and now they're going to become professional, and that could happen.
Yeah, you very likely can for that.
So if that supervisor contacts me, then I can scan them a transcript, and they also get monthly reports. So it's not like it's some, I'm just gonna pull numbers out of my ear. There's literally every single month they're in class, how many tests they took and what score they got, how many operations they did and what, all that. So I can transcript that to them, and then when they get done and they do that completion thingy that Derek was talking about, certificate of completion, that would go with that transcript and it would all come to you and it would be. I do not, I'm sorry, Sammy, I do not give transcripts to students ever. I've always been told they have to directly go to you guys. They cannot be delivered by the student.
No, and they can't. This is not. We don't take them delivered by the student. What I'm saying is if somebody drops out of your school, we never receive transcripts here with not completed.
Right.
So what I'm asking is when a student drops out from a career school or withdraws, do you guys keep that transcript until they go to another school and then you transfer that transcript?
And they sign a release of information at the new school, and then the school contacts me, or the student contacts me and says, this is the email directly to the school. Can you please send my transcript and a contact
person? The supervisor as well?
That's what I'm saying. It could be emailed to a supervisor.
So
as long as it was a verified person.
This is Sammy. So I've heard stories that transcripts are withheld because of payment.
I have heard that as
in
well.
those situations, how
Yes,
would
you would not.
students get, how would that student get those hours? And I don't think we could require a school.
Didn't you say, Cindy, that that's not a thing anymore though?
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
I never thought that was
I don't know
okay.
where and I don't know why.
Well, it's not legal, but
It's not?
no, you can't withhold a transcript for finances anymore.
Oh,
That happened like 2 years ago.
Not that long ago.
About 2 years ago.
That happened.
And well, I send them all the that anyways. When they call me, I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, you can't,
Well, and if you did the hours, you did the work, you did all the things, your transcript should be released to wherever it needs to be released to.
What we can do is in the rule, basically
That's
tell the
not good
supervisor
anymore, so.
the Sammy, if the situation happens, contact previous school directly.
Yes.
Put it in the rule, so they know.
Yeah. Then they can contact school, get the
To get the
transcript and go from
I
there.
mean, that's where we can start and then,
Yeah.
that doesn't work. I don't know how, but it is likely that it could
Yeah, it
happen in
could.
your situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, you know, it makes
There
sense. Incarcerated, they don't finish. So it makes sense if you do.
Early releases happen, things happen, things change, circumstances.
Actually, would probably be really.
Well, and what's gonna happen too, I would say if somebody's going all the way to say you guys, and they live in LeGrand, and they're staying per week to go to school at your school, well, wherever, 50 miles from there, and then this happens, they could find somebody in their area to pick them up. So you guys would have to do a transcript.
School opened right down the street from.
And in other programs, you do see people coming out of school and going into apprenticeship. They are definitely doing that because for whatever reason, they work better in a smaller environment as opposed to the, collegiate thing.
Yeah.
Cindy, it's kind of a bad question, but just quick in that last comment. So some of these far away, no school, 50 miles, but now one opens. Are they grandfathered to teach out?
I mean, we're talking a teach-out program now. We're for sure. That's a good one.
And that's
what happened.
I mean, remember, this is Tina, remember in the day we had Pendleton, LeGrand, and
Yeah,
Ontario.
yeah.
3 schools. We never had this problem, and then all 3 of those schools go away, and now there's no schools
And now
out
here we are,
there.
yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, what if? I mean, that's something we need to.
I'm surprised their school hasn't been opened in the middle there.
Yeah.
Cindy.
No way.
But that is a good question.
Yeah, it's something to think about, because.
Well, I would think, this is Tina, if they're in a program, then
That program
they would
would grandfather,
continue.
yeah, I would
Until
think.
they were finished out, and then nobody knew. when
Nobody
they
can start, yeah.
Didn't we have language? We have or heck have it. When the new curriculum came in place, there was like a crossover.
Yes.
Where it said if that, and then that. So I could still from
Yeah,
there.
there was yeah. You could do either one, they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we at?
We don't. Sorry, but I didn't bring that up, but. I think, yeah.
So we are, did we finish?
And we're down.
Application requirements. I think we're on page 19. Thank you. And this is how to get a license. This is the requirement, application requirement. Get the provisional.
Pretty basic.
The basic stuff. So you have to complete an application, pay your fees, submit documentation showing proof the applicants for potential arrests, amount from a school that operates from the city. In the field of practice in which the applicant is seeking education and training, demonstrate the ability and intention to actively work toward a practitioner certificate, field of practice. Not right. And then they can attest to this, demonstrating actively working towards. Submit documentation, this is something you guys wanted, showing proof of having completed bloodborne pathogens, training. I think that was provided, I don't know if it's the right language. Needs some, something different. Check it out. Then submit exact, this we talked about this in the. Submit a complete declaration of responsibilities signed by the supervisor, so required to have a supervisor and when they apply. We talked about that there?
Yeah.
This is one.
There's just any old.
Yep, any part.
Okay, any questions about that rule? It's pretty. Then the next one is supervisor requirements. Are we on 40 now?
Is that it?
Chug it, chug it, chug.
Want to eat it?
That's it for today. That's as far as I can get. I said, Derek, we're stopping.
But like you said, we're hammering out a lot of the details that can be applied to each program.
Yes.
So it should go a lot quicker.
So yeah, we might even be able to have something in the other practice structure. You. We kind of just gotta get the, foundation and then usually it rolls out, so. So supervisor, to obtain, office approval to serve as supervisor for the professional certificate, complete an application, hold an active certificate, no prior for the disciplinary action, 5 years.
Okay, can I ask one quick question about that? If we're gonna require that the supervisor have bloodborne pathogens, which we all have to have it, so they should have it, could it be part of their application process?
I
that
hear
they-
that's not on there.
That's not
It's for the provisional.
Oh, that's for the provisional, not
professional
the
has to.
supervisor?
Because they already have to have, renewal.
Right. Get it.
You know how many calls I've been getting on
Oh my
that?
God.
I have one right now.
There's a great
Wants to go to the board.
I don't know why
They're upset,
Why?
especially older.
Yeah.
I am
older.
older, Tina.
I.
It's dumb.
But these
But it is
older
what it is.
practitioners that only hold it to have their supplies.
Yeah.
Like
They go
it's
on
70,
by the
80.
side.
What? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we are, yes.
Yes, on 20, number C, attest to having actively practiced in the applicable field of practice for a minimum of 5 years immediately preceding the date of application, and be responsible for training. You talked about the responsibility clause, have a signed responsibility
Yeah, those are a whole
clause.
other rule for that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
just wanted, thank you.
This is like
Okay,
how to become one, and it'll be a whole one once you are.
okay, super duper.
Yeah, that one.
That was easy. So easy.
Does anybody on the call have any questions? Is it clear as mud? All of this, I promise, will be cleaned up by March 18th. Yeah, okay, so change the week before then. So if that is okay, I'm gonna go ahead and please, read the public comment script. Let me see if I can- The Board of Cosmetology Qualifications and Rules Advisory Committee is now in for public comment period at 1:37. James, would you like to make a public comment?
So we're not going to go on to page 22.
12:30, page 30.
Oh, I put the equity stuff, but we can go over that all at one time. We don't have to do that today. Unless you guys really want. No, we're good. I like to finish the field of practice all the way through and then. But be thinking about it. Yeah, be thinking about things. James, Daniel, did you have a comment?
Okay, yes. Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank the board for letting me comment today. I was actually meaning to comment on another board in another state about regulations and licensing, but the meeting got moved, so I decided I would take the time to speak on it here in Oregon. I'm sure the board is known by now the issue of overregulation and licensing related to barbering and cosmetology. This issue according to the White House and according to law firms like the Institute for Justice and the Federal Trade Commission, have all labeled licensing, especially related to barbering and small trades like cosmetologists, as troublesome. It's imposed over 200 billion higher cost to our economy a year, including
Is
yeah.
that through loans?
Um,
How does it add to the economy?
Margaret.
Yeah,
Let's
so,
not,
shut up.
let's not ask questions. James, we need to stick to what's on the agenda. So that is actually not a topic that the board has any control over, and nor does the committee. So that's what we take public comment on what's on the agenda and what the board has statutory authority to regulate.
Okay, so you're not taking any
We have-
public comments related to licensing or regulation laws.
Well, we have statutory authority to regulate. And
Okay,
regulation is not what we can do.
but you could take proposals on what you can do about regulations, right?
Um,
Because
I mean-
I've addressed this issue in California, and they perfectly let me speak my opinions, and they've also addressed this issue related to licensing.
Are you wanting to, this is Tina, are you wanting to talk to the board? This is a committee.
It's fine, you can go ahead. And
Yeah.
you guys have about 3 minutes, what we're gonna give each public comment.
Okay, so all I was saying is, like the case with Melanie Armstrong, maybe the board could look that up. Licensing has affected barbers and hair braiders. It's restricted the types of jobs and entry into the market, and it's put a broad scale on the industry. Like Melanie, she wanted to become a hair braider, but she had to go through all these hoops and training and get a license when she just wanted to braid. She had to learn how. So my concern is that licensing is becoming an issue, and in other industries like the construction trade, which is far more dangerous in my opinion, uh, it's unregulated in states like Washington or Texas or Maine. So I find it unnecessary for a simple occupation with a comb and scissors to be licensed, while an excavator, framing, and commercial construction jobs are operated across the state without a license. So my recommendation was maybe for the board to review these concerns and take into mind reforming some licensing laws, making it easier for braiders and hair barbers. That was my public comment.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me comment. I appreciate it.
Any other public comment?
Well, yeah, but I don't think I'll say it here.
You can say it.
Well, no.
Jennifer.
Okay. Jennifer?
Yeah, to comment on that, there are restrictions in all those industries. So, I mean, we have to, even if you want to be a hair braider, if somebody comes in with an infected scalp of sorts, do you want to be liable for either spreading whatever might be on their scalp, whether it be psoriasis or open sores or bugs, for heaven's sakes? Like, do you want to be responsible for that? And that's why that's why licensed professionals are, that's why we have to go through all this studying, I guess, to know the sanitations of not reusing combs on every client and not reusing capes and not so. And then for, like he said, there's no regulations in construction. My husband works in construction in the state of Washington, and that's why they have L&I. They do have, and you do have to be licensed. You have to have a license, and you have to go through L&I to be able to run construction businesses unless you're working under the table, and that's a problem. In
Can
my
I comment back on that?
This is just public comment, it's not a back and forth. This is Sandy.
Okay.
Any other public comment?
I do think obviously the licensing is important. I think one of the biggest reasons that people want, less regulations is and whatnot might be more like funding wise. I feel like a lot of people are just getting by at this point. And so to pay so much for all these separate licenses or even schooling, sometimes schooling is the option for funds. And I think having, the training program would help out with that since, we get to kind of use our discretion for payment and how they get paid or if they get paid or if they're paying for the program. But I do think the licensing and education is absolutely necessary.
What was that?
That
was Megan. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. This is Margaret. I think that the licensing is necessary, and I think this certificate program is the perfect amount of time for somebody to learn their skill, their trade. And I understand the gentleman's comments and the last person's comments, and that's why I think this program is so good. It offers a solution of less hours, but it still offers licensing and overseeing things that have to do with disease and the spread of and sanitation, which are important aspects of this business. I think we can all remember all the fungus that went around years ago in nail salons when they first started proliferating. So I think both issues, I feel the certificate program is very powerful way of answering both of those issues.
Okay, any other comment?
Seeing no news.
Okay. Well, our next meeting is March 18th at 9:30. You guys want to schedule another one now or wait until March and see where we're at? I don't know how you're gonna schedule now. Want to schedule on, I did once, 2, 3 more. Between 2 and 3, yeah. Ideally, early July.
How long did you say, Karen, for? Till the next one, a month?
1 month, yeah.
And then you had some things.
The meeting is June 11th.
June,
Yeah, so ideally, we would be wrapped up for that, I would present them there.
This is Carrie. Why don't we put one on? We already have March set. Why don't we put one on the books for April so we've got it held? And then if we don't need it, we can take it off.
Okay, well, I think we'll definitely probably need it.
Tax dates?
Ooh.
15th, April 15th,
Got a board meeting.
April 8th. Oh, no, can't do the.
I can't either.
Oh, 22nd?
The 22nd, I already have you guys scheduled.
Oh, great.
I mean, yay.
Oh,
So.
22nd?
Sammy, you also have a tentative one scheduled for April 8th.
Is that too close together, do you think? Could you guys do 8 and 22? And then I think we could be done, and then I could have May to wrap everything up.
I cannot do April 8th.
That might be too tight.
I know. So let's do, if everyone's do the 22nd. We can try again. I think we can get that too. Since we have it pretty well dialed in, you'll have to look at the renewal stuff. Supervisor stuff. And then we'll still be able to plunk all the numbers in.
What about in May? Do we want to put something for May, like May 6th?
We could do May sixth.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case? Hold
Yeah.
it.
Just in case, I like that. May sixth,
Did you hear that?
May fifth or sixth?
I think we have a meeting on the calendar for sign language as of right now. I know it's probably not gonna happen, but
For May sixth?
yeah, there's a tentative meeting on there.
I can't,
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I cannot do May sixth.
Evening though.
Yeah, but I don't know if we'll do two.
Can we do the 20th of May?
I mean, most likely we'll be able to do the sixth, since we haven't set any meetings for sign
I don't
language,
have
but
anything for May sixth. What about the 13th? Look, can you move the 13th?
Yes, I can do the 20th, I
there's
can
also
do the 6th and the
date for
13th.
sign language on the 13th, but I'm assuming it's.
Let's do May sixth. Want to do May sixth? And take sign language off. I don't get that date.
That was the 13th.
The sixth or the 13th.
Okay.
Sixth.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I'm in it, I can't do it. I really would like to be part of it, but
You can't do May sixth?
I can't do May sixth or the 13th. I can do the 20th.
Can you do the fifth?
I can do the, I can do the 5th
Or the 12th?
I can't see, let's see, get me out. Sorry, but
Or the 14th?
I can do the, yeah, I can't do, it's 6 or 7, 12, 13, 14. That week I can do.
You
the
get
next
to be
week.
real close to the board meeting and tomorrow is tight to get things ready.
Mondays are open, but,
I can do a Monday if you guys. The 11th or the 4th?
I could do the 4th.
Everybody can do the 4th?
Well, I'll just be coming off vacation, so if I'm panning groggy. We have a little bit of jet lag.
And everybody on this call can make the 4th? Sleep.
I can tell you guys are not very sympathetic and that's not very nice.
Second.
Okay. So March 18th, April 22nd, and May 4th.
Can you read those one more time, Sammy?
March 18th,
Thank you.
April 22nd,
Thank you.
May 4th.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, the Board of Cosmetology Qualifications Rules Advisory Committee has adjourned at 1:52 p.m. Thank you, guys. Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yes.